Majority Report with Sam Cedar.
The destiny of America is always safer in the hands of the people than in the conference rooms of any elite.
Sam Cedar.
They are unanimous in their hate for me, and I welcome their hatred.
We must guard against the acquisition of unwarranted influence, whether sought or unsought, by the military-industrial complex.
The Majority Report with Sam Cedar.
Ever get the feeling you've been cheated?
It is Friday, August 14th, 2020. My name is Sam Cedar. This is the five-time award-winning Majority Report. We are broadcasting live steps and steps and steps from the industrially ravaged Gowanus Canal in the heartland of America, downtown Brooklyn, USA. On the program today, the Senate adjourns as pandemic economic relief talks fall apart. Meanwhile, the Postal Service is under siege from within, as sorting machines across the country are decommissioned. Trump admits no funding for the post office if vote by mail goes forward. Meanwhile, Elizabeth Warren calls for an investigation into the new Postmaster General's recent purchase of Amazon stock options. Israel and the UAE announce the official normalization of relations. Texas coronavirus cases spike, but their data has crumbled. Meanwhile, the Greek military on high alert over tensions with Turkey. Sure, why not? Bloomberg and Kasich to get more speaking time at the DNC than AOC. Biden's national lead goes double digit. In 2020 alone, Trump launches more airstrikes in Somalia than Bush and Obama combined. And lastly, Donald Trump seemingly floats an Edward Snowden pardon. All this and more on today's Majority Report. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. I should also say, I neglected to headline this, just breaking. The Government Accountability Office, Accounting Office, GAO, has determined that both Chad Wolf and Ken Cuccinelli were not appointed as acting head of DHS, and I believe CBP. They were not legally appointed to their positions. In other words, they're serving illegally. In other words, we should be rolling federal officers up on them and having them arrested. I don't know if that's actually a criminal offense. Nevertheless, I still think we should be doing that. They both have it coming to them. Welcome to the program. It is Casual Friday. Pandemic version. I hope people are well. Quite a week to look back on the program today. I neglected to say, I just realized, Alex Pareene will be joining us, and Judy Gold will be here. Judy Gold has a new book. So I hope we've pulled the graphics for that. Matt and Brendan are here with us as well. I believe Jamie will be joining us in the fun half of the program today. Where we are in terms of any type of corona relief bill, the Senate has adjourned. They will come back if there is a deal. The negotiations are now going on between Nancy Pelosi and Steve Mnuchin. Although, and apparently, Mark Meadows has been sort of sent out of DC for the week, because Meadows was certainly inhibiting the negotiations, is from what I've read in terms of the reporting. There are a lot of people who are suffering, and a new report out that shows exactly why there is such little urgency amongst the Republicans to do this. Now, Donald Trump is concerned from an election standpoint, but Washington Post has a piece that shows that the recession is over for the rich, but the working class is far from recovered. Jobs are fully back for the highest wage earners. But fewer than half the jobs lost this spring have returned for those making less than $20 an hour. This is according to a new labor data analysis by an economics professor at Brown University, John Friedman. Some economists are starting to call this a K-shaped recovery because of the diverging prospects for the rich and the poor. We're also seeing this disparity between white and minority households. We're also seeing this disparity between big and small businesses. And that is a function of the way that the CARES Act was structured and a function of the fact that we have now cut off any help or extra help to folks who lost their jobs. And this is, part of the reason why there's such little urgency on the part of Republicans. And I don't know that Mitch McConnell, I don't know if people remember this. Well, we'll talk more about this with Pareene. But the other major sticking point in these negotiations is not only that the Democrats want more money for states and cities, they also want money for the post office. But Donald Trump doesn't want to give money for the post office because it will mean that more people have access to voting. That's not speculation at this point. Here is the president's chief economic advisor, Larry Kudlow. What time of the day did he do this interview? Do we know? Is this a morning thing?
Yeah, this was yesterday morning.
Yesterday morning. All right. So he's probably, sharper than he would be if it was, after 12 noon. But here is Kudlow explaining why the talks fell apart. Because the Democrats, you're not going to believe the stuff that Democrats are asking for. Listen to this.
Whether or not, in terms of your first question, I don't think I really want to say much on that. President Trump has acted forcefully because we couldn't reach a deal with the Democrats. They're asking too much money, $3.5 trillion. We've already spent over $3 trillion. So much of the Democratic asks are really liberal left wish lists. We don't want to have voting rights and aid to aliens and so forth. That's not our game. And the president can't accept that kind of deal. So we'll wait and see on the negotiations. Treasury Secretary Mnuchin is working on that, but so far it's a...
I love the fact that nobody even bats an eye. Wait a second. Larry, did you just say that voting rights are just not your game? Don't you think you should maybe just sort of at least give lip service to the whole voting rights thing?
That's how generous interviewers are with Kudlow, is he's just stumbling over the words. So you might as well we know what he means. He means, mail-in voting.
Yeah, Larry, we know what you're talking about. You just don't want you just don't want anybody in the blue states to be able to vote, right? That's basically what it is, right, Larry? Yeah.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, that's fine.
Exactly.
But the fact is that is a huge part of what's going on here. And we'll talk more about this with Pareene. But what's happening with the Postal Service is just absolutely nuts. It's just absolutely nuts. We're getting reports out of Portland that they are scooping up extra mailboxes, which, maybe that's just, we had regular, culling of the mailboxes that we're doing. They are decommissioning sorting machines. The Postal Service is telling Pennsylvania that we can't deliver all the ballots. We can't possibly do this. A federal judge has basically told the Trump administration, you need to give me proof of what you're asserting. And this is just posting this now. Multiple sources within the Postal Service told Motherboard they have personally witnessed the machines, which cost millions of dollars, being destroyed or thrown in the dumpster. These are sorting machines. They are removing more than 500 letter sorting machines nationwide, about 15% of its inventory. This is clearly a reduction in capacity, not a reallocation of machinery, as the USPS has publicly stated. Supposedly, the plan predates Louis DeJoy, but there's no doubt in my mind that these plans have been sitting around. How would you dismantle the post office? Well, we would start with this. Let's put that into effect. There's absolutely no reason to do what they're doing. There's just simply absolutely no reason during this right now to be doing what they're doing other than to diminish the capacity of the post office. And look, if you have 100 million people, if you have half the people voting by mail, know that is still, and they all do it on the same day, that is still less than the capacity on any given day of the U.S. Postal Service in terms of what they do in terms of delivering the mail. They can do this. We spoke to Mark Dimenstein last week, or I guess on Monday. Was that Monday?
That was
4 days
Monday.
ago.
Yeah.
Where he basically just said, it's easy. That's what we do. You don't think that there's a surge at Christmas? You don't think there's more mail at Christmas than there would be with absentee ballots? That's nuts. Let me know when we got Alex on the line. In the meantime, I got to tell you, 2 or 3 months ago, I had tried some CBD tinctures, was not impressed. Didn't know much about the stuff. And in retrospect, I think it was a function of the dosage was literally weak tea. About 2 or 3 months ago, I can't remember when it was, Sunset Lake CBD approached us. They are fans of the show. They wanted to advertise. They are located just outside of Burlington, Vermont. It's a family-owned dairy farm that was producing milk for Ben & Jerry's ice cream. They decided to diversify, started to grow hemp. They collaborate with the University of Vermont to work on regenerative agricultural practices. Their hemp is 100% pesticide-free. They only use organic fertilizers. On top of all that, their business practices, excellent. They've imposed their own $15 an hour minimum wage. Employees own the majority of the company. And their CBD products has made believers out of everyone here on the show. Now, I keep reporting back on this, and, I'm very hesitant to make any broad claims about this stuff. I've been using it for sleep. That has been very helpful to me. But I get eczema sometimes on my hand, on my palms of my hand, on my ankles, and on my chest. And I've hit all 3 of those now over the course of the past 4 or 5 weeks. And I have used the tincture and most recently the salve that they sell with arnica and beeswax in it. And that's supposed to be for muscles and joints, but I've used it on my eczema. And I got to tell you, I cannot vouch for what would happen with anybody else. It works. And I know I sent some salve to a buddy of mine who had shingles, and it helped with his back. We got emails from people who say it helps with their arthritis. I'm loving their CBD coffee. That's my weekend coffee now drink. And Matt, who has always been a CBD smokable skeptic, is now you're like their chief spokesperson. You're like their chief smokesperson. Sorry. I'm so sorry.
I don't know about that, but they did change my mind about smokable CBD. I had a terrible experience in Venice Beach, Los Angeles, that gave me a really bad headache, and I didn't understand why people would ever smoke CBD. But they've basically sent me a lot of it, an embarrassing amount of CBD, and I've been mixing it with stuff, and it's great. It's very good for relaxation purposes. And I just gave my girlfriend a foot massage last night with the Sunset Lake CBD hemp salve plus arnica, and I must say, good reviews there too. So
wow, that's getting that we're really getting that is going to resonate. I will tell you that right now. People are not going to be talking about your foot rubs for quite a while. Folks, go to sunsetlakecbd.com. Use the coupon code, one word, left is best. Left is best. You get 20% off. Left is best. sunsetlakecbd.com. Check out the gummies too. The gummy CBDs are delicious, and they have 1,000 milligrams. Is that what it is? MG? I don't know. And so check it all out. sunsetlakecbd.com. Left is best. One word, 20% off. Check it. Do we have Alex?
He's not here yet. No.
All right. Well, he's just sort of.
He said he would be joining us shortly a few minutes ago.
Well, all right.
With an exclamation point.
Let's play this ad, this Ed Markey ad. So Ed Markey, the recent poll shows Ed Markey now up. Let's see. He's got a wide lead. Apparently, this is there's a 4.5-5% margin of error, but he is up almost 15 points in the poll in terms of the primary over Kennedy, which is making me very happy. Hopefully that will hold. And I think I'm not exactly sure what accounts for it. I think it's just there is a change amongst Democratic primary voters where they want there are issues. People seem to be voting based upon issues in these primaries more so than they have in the past. And 3 or 4 months ago, 5 months ago, Markey was only leading by 2 or 3 points. And I think just the more people found out about Kennedy and realized he is to the right of Markey, I think this is what's going on. And Markey just released a killer ad that is one of the best ads I feel like I've seen released in a long time, and particularly a politician who is of, the boomer generation. Here's this new Ed Markey ad. And of course, I love it just for his accent.
There's an invisible contract we all signed at birth. A promise. Every hour we work means longer days of freedom and security. It paved the road in your neighborhoods, and it added up to a country. But when crisis hit, Trump's government abandoned America. We asked what we could do for our country. They looked for what they could take. But there's a truth written in every history book. If you break the sacred contract, the people make a revolution. All across America, the essential people are demanding a new deal. Well, they call me the deal maker.
Ed Markey's desk was thrown out in the hall by the State House bosses. Markey's bill is now the law.
I'm Ed Markey. I'm running for Congress because I want to fight for the principles that I believe in. The bosses may tell me where to sit. No one tells me where to stand.
My father was a union leader. He taught me, don't beg for your rights, organize and take them. So in January, I was the first senator to write to Trump. I warned him we needed a plan. I talked to the Democrats and the Republicans. I told them, we've got to save the fishermen. A month later, we had $300 million for our fishing industry. Trump wanted to cheap out, but I helped negotiate $600 a week for any American struggling to find their next gig. They thought the son of a milkman couldn't learn the rules. I made new ones. I don't need to get on the phone and talk to lobbyists to know what working people think. I get on the streets and I listen.
I've got a question for 1 million people. Do you want to freeze the arms race?
I put the deal on the table, but the people make it impossible to refuse. With 500 laws on the books, you think I'm going to stop now? They wish.
Green New Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez and Senator Ed Markey introduced their Green New Deal
to stop climate change and create millions of good jobs in the process.
We got to absolutely crush Donald Trump in November. But if we're going to end this era of chaos, that won't be enough. We got to make sure President Biden signs the Green New Deal. We can't wait.
You've got to have folks in the United States Senate who are willing to stand up for working people. That's who Ed Markey is. I need Ed Markey in the United States Senate.
We asked what we could do for our country. We went out. We did it. With all due respect, it's time to start asking what your country can do for you.
That's like the third or fourth time I've watched that ad. And I got to tell you, it just gets more brilliant every time I watch it. I mean, the way that he is sewn together, sort of like the different generations of Democrats who have represented the left side of the party, the way that he basically dips in and uses, the value of Obama and AOC, almost juxtaposing them to each other. Even though that's, they're not exactly on the same page, as it were. And just the idea that he's basically saying he's already talking about pressuring Joe Biden as president, while at the same time saying it's absolutely necessary that he becomes president. He is not only, tweaking Kennedy off of the ask not what your country can do for you, what you can do for your country. He is also basically saying, it's time for people to get material benefits.
Mm-hmm.
And he's working in stuff like essential workers. I mean, I just thought that was just a brilliant ad, to be honest with you. I never knew that he was known as the deal maker. I'm not sure I buy that.
He is now.
But he is now.
Deal maker.
He is now. And I also like the way that he pronounces organize.
That whole thing makes me feel like the direction that the director got was like, what is Ed like? And like, well, he really likes The Departed, but do it for politics or something.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. I was going to say, I thought his accent was a little over the top, but I don't know. I think he pulled it off. It really did sound like he's from Boston. Let's take we don't need to take a break, do we?
Nope, here it comes.
Alex Pareene. Alex, are you here?
I'm here.
I'm glad you were able to organize yourself and get here. Did you see that Markey ad?
Oh yeah, I did. Yeah. It's like
awesome.
It's the best ad I've seen in years.
Right?
It made me want to like run through a brick wall for the guy. It's so funny.
Honestly, my first thought was like, God, wait, is it too late to nominate for him for president?
Yeah.
Like, I really need to have an old guy? Let's.
It's pretty funny. It's like, because he's just been an institution for so long. And I've always known he's like, oh, he's one of the good liberal ones, right? He's like, he's one of the good liberal senators, but had no other thoughts about him. And then now that little Kennedy guy's after him, you're like, I gotta defend Markey.
And I think that's what the ad is designed to do, is to sort of he does such a good job. That ad does such a good job of weaving in sort of like the new generation of Democrats and the sort of the value of like the old, Democrats, and the way that he explains the Green New Deal without any details, but just sort of like contextualizes it.
Yeah, that's what I actually liked about it as political messaging beyond just the like coolness of the ad, was that it actually like made arguments that I feel like, we are always saying, why aren't Democrats making these arguments? Why aren't they phrasing things in these terms? And like in a short amount of time, it pretty efficiently did.
Yep. I should introduce you, Alex Pareene, ladies and gentlemen. You may remember him. He is the staff writer from the New Republic and the host of. Are you the co-host or the host?
Co-host.
Okay. Well, you're the host.
I hope
the host
Laura's
of
not
the
listening.
Politics of Everything on the New Republic podcast network. So, Alex, welcome. I hope you're well. We're checking in. Matt was like, I feel like we're checking in on Alex every once a month just to see. It seems like you've
just like a wellness check.
And wellness check. You've trimmed your beard. You've trimmed your hair a little bit. You're looking like
there's been I've taken maybe a little bit more care of myself. So
that's good to hear. So a lot of stuff happening this week. Frankly, we had primaries on Tuesday. Ilhan Omar, of course, won, and in Minnesota, Tina Smith is going to be facing a guy named Jason Lewis, who is a lunatic. And that's we have this one story on the primaries that all the members of the squad sort of crushed it in their primaries, despite what we were told was going to happen to them. I think, if you had asked me in 2018, I would have said it's possible one or two of them could lose, like Rashida Tlaib could lose, or maybe, and no, I think they really have cemented their positions, and they've added to their numbers in terms of like that, this, squad adjacent squad politicians. And then the other big thing out of that primary was, of course, a guy like Jason Lewis, but also we're going to have our first full-on QAnon representative in Congress. I mean, she's I think it's Georgia's 14th district. She's not going to lose that. And I don't want to spend too much time on that. And it's really like she herself is not that relevant, but I think it is like we just keep seeing these waves, right? Like, I mean, this is like you would call them moral majority at one point. You would call them, you would call them, Newt Gingrichites. Like each time they come back, and then they were Tea Partiers, and they come back, they take over more of the party. They move from the margins into the mainstream of the party. And the only thing that replaces them is something even more virulent and insane. So like, we're going to look back on Mark Meadows and Jim Jordan and these Freedom Caucus people as like, remember when Republicans were, not completely talking about, we're not talking about changelings and, I don't know, pedophile pizza places or whatever it is. I mean, I think maybe if we get enough of those people in Congress, maybe we will start to see Democrats, stop talking about the idea of negotiating with them and finding common ground.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. Right. It's like, how can you even articulate a need to try to find a middle ground with like a QAnon person, right? Like you can't even really make the case, like you can be like, well, I know how to sit down and talk to Mitch McConnell, but you can't do that with like, I know how to sit down and talk to someone who believes that that John F. Kennedy Jr. is alive.
Right. Well, but I say that because what we're looking at in terms of what's going on with the post office right now, seems to me to be the most naked attempt Trump has, I think, like sort of like there's a lot of these, attempts but this is a full-on attempt to like legitimately interfere with the election.
Yeah.
Right. Like, I mean, this is akin to, we're gonna break into some of the electronic voting things and just turn them off.
Right. It's right. It's
happening in real time. We're watching it right now.
Yeah. And I think it's difficult to, I guess it is hard to get across just how scary and dangerous it is. I mean, I don't know. I spent a lot of time last week reading as much news from Belarus as I could, and it's like it's not impossible. America is not so exceptional that what happened in Belarus from 1994 to now is impossible, right? Like they had free and fair elections in 1994 and then never again, and like there's nothing in the rule book that says a similar thing couldn't happen to the United States, which is not to say Trump is the guy who's going to do that. But I do think like that's what it makes me think. Like we need to not just be complacent about thinking that like something resembling elections that are reasonably fair will continue to happen.
Well, I mean, there's 2 points you're bringing up there. And actually like, I was thinking about the specific point you're making in terms of where this leads, right?
Yeah.
Like with the concept of like the second mover agenda advantage, right? The first person, market person to market has always basically just exposed the flaws. For the second person to market.
Right.
And so like, Tom Cotton is just sitting there taking notes. This works. This doesn't work. That works. This doesn't work or whomever.
Yeah.
But we're watching, we just talked about a report where you have something like 10 to 15% of the letter sorting devices being not only taken offline, but destroyed.
Yeah.
Like literally destroyed. And the post office has been lying about this. They've been saying, "Oh, we're redeploying them and putting them somewhere else."
Yeah.
When you destroy a major piece of millions of dollars of equipment, and you're doing this all around the country, I mean, it's quite clear what's going on here.
Yeah,
they are trying to diminish the capacity of the post office.
Yep.
And I think it's like a twofer. I think there's some people, I think it's like, Paul Wolfowitz saying that, weapons of mass destruction was the thing we could all agree on. Right. I think in this instance, you've got people like DeJoy, who is the new postmaster general, and he is heavily invested in all of these private, package delivery and mail services, and has in Amazon and this and that. I think they're looking to privatize the post office on one hand. And I think from Trump's perspective, it's like, I don't want them to be able to mail in their ballots.
Yeah.
And so, and the real question is like, what, because they're going to do what they're going to do. The question is like, what are the Democrats going to do? Like,
I don't know. Right.
Like, at what point does it become incumbent upon the Democrats to come out and say, and not just the Democrats, but, come out and say like, you are making this election invalid. Like, at what point do we get there? I mean, I know this sounds a little bit like hyperbole, but I mean,
right. I think it's really difficult to talk about all this without sounding hyperbolic, which is one reason I think a lot of elected Democrats don't know what to say or do, because they don't want to sound hysterical. They believe very much in rhetorical moderation and caution. Like they believe that's a virtue that sets them apart from the other side, is their caution. But this is not a time for that. And I don't know. I think someone was asking the other day, like, if we have a clearly illegitimate election in which Trump refuses to leave office and millions of ballots are lost or thrown out, then what are Republicans going to do? And like my question is like, my worst fear here is that what Democrats are doing is preparing, like laying in the groundwork for like essentially fighting up until Bush v. Gore too. Like, like, you know, like it's you can imagine a case in which like they have a legal, like they are preparing a legal fight that they could easily just lose in a corrupt fashion at the Supreme Court. So I don't know.
I agree. I mean, I don't see enough going on in terms of like, you know, how are we going to do this in terms of raw power? How are we going to do this in terms of like, you know, people bringing people on the streets? How are we going to set the predicate in the way that Trump is setting the predicate for his people, which is, you know, vote by mail is illicit. I mean, much of what they've been doing for the past year and a half is an attempt to delegitimize a Trump loss. That's what all of the Birtherism stuff was all about. That's why Bill Barr and Rudy Giuliani were going around the world, was not just to sort of say that the Comey investigation was illegitimate. They're going around trying to make the case that Ukraine was involved in this and they were actually supporting Clinton, and they're going to do the same thing with Biden. And that's what that ran into an impeachment, and it became a little bit less salient. In fact, totally less salient, although Ron Johnson seems to be trying to have hearings to that effect right now. But I mean, I'm not seeing, maybe they roll this out. I don't know when, but I mean, I'm not seeing this. I'm not seeing them do anything other than like, I'm pretty sure the institutions can hold. You know what I mean? Like they're just looking at the structure and they're saying, I think it's gonna, they're, you know, instead of going and boarding up the windows and doing this, they're just going like, I'm pretty sure this can hold.
Or they're like, this, you know, this can withstand these hurricane strength winds just long enough for an overwhelming electoral victory beyond any possible attempt to challenge it, can bring us back to then work on fixing up the things that are kind of looking shaky right now. Like they're like in their minds, it's like, it just needs to hold long enough for this. And it's like, I mean, I don't know, like this is we're the fundamentals of how ballot casting will happen are being screwed with right now. Can you really put all of your put all your chips on an overwhelming electoral victory that will be recognized as, I mean, I don't know.
I have to say that, you know, this week I've been toying with the idea of actually voting for Biden in a safe state. I mean, for this very reason. Like, I mean, you know, it's not like, you know, it's not like there's some type of, I mean, it's for this reason. Basically, it's just like, I don't want Donald Trump to stay in office. And if one vote in New York State is going to, you know, sort of add to that number, but I think that's, I'm increasingly feeling like that's necessary, but insufficient. That there needs to be a couple other, you know, contingencies that are put out there by the Democrats, and I'm not seeing it yet. Let's talk a little bit about Kamala Harris. She's the VP pick. And I don't know. I don't think it was really a tremendous surprise in any way.
No, I think last time we talked, I think I this year I gave up on making predictions because I just don't want to be a person making predictions. But I think last time we talked, I said, like, I have thought since March Harris is the most likely for the same reasons now as in March, but the underlying justification might have changed, but the reasons are still pretty much the same.
Right. And I think that's yes. I mean, I think that was the case. And I don't know. So what is your assessment of this? I mean, I mean, you go, and then I'll, you know.
I mean, I'm, you know, I am not like, there was a part of me that felt like people like Rice were getting talked up just to make people like me like feel relieved when it was Harris.
You were saying that the other day. Yes.
And but you know, I think it's obviously frustrating now that we have this feeling that like the Democratic primary electorate is like going to always remain, it's going to, like, if we imagine they will continue to act as they did in the past. If in 2008, when Obama chose Biden, I would have been a lot more upset at his choice, knowing that many years later, Biden would be the Democratic nominee for president, because Biden, as we know, was like the conservative balance of the ticket back then.
Right.
With Harris, I'm like, perfectly fine vice president, probably. I don't want her to be the next nominee. And like, this is the thing that makes me like, we were all sort of hoping we could move, and who knows what kind of politician she will evolve into, because she's already sort of played many parts, I think. But what I didn't like was the anointing of the next front runner. But we'll see how much the world changes in between now and whenever there's an open Democratic primary again.
And I think your point of we'll see how much she changes. I mean, that is sort of like David Dayen had a piece that was essentially like that. And my sense is, I think Harris is not too dissimilar from Biden. I think they're both ciphers to a certain extent.
Yeah.
And they are, and I have to say that ciphers are like my second favorite type of politician.
They know, like knowing which way the wind is blowing is useful.
And particularly in this era, right? I mean, and I think where we're headed, I would prefer someone who had some actual like legitimate interest in the politics of the day and where we're headed, like Markey. But I think that at the very least, because she is going to be the presumptive front runner in 2024. I mean, it's conceivable that Joe Biden will be like, I want to do it again.
Yeah, it turns out
four more years.
Yeah.
But I have a feeling he's not going to be able to say that at the time. I mean, we should be so lucky that he'd still be able to even articulate that in 4 years from now. But she's going to be the presumptive front runner. And I think she has to, I think she has to know, based upon what I've perceived of her in terms of a politician, of like where this country is going to be in 4 years is going to be to the left of where it is today in terms of popular desires. And I think they're going to get a real sense of that in the White House if they win, like as early as like January 21st. Right. I mean, Ed Markey, a sitting senator, is running in part, you see it in that ad, on pressuring President Biden.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
I don't recall hearing that from the left. Like in fact, an incumbent, like you hear Joe Manchin saying like, you need me in office because I'm going to constrain Obama or whatever it is. Right. Or you hear like, I'm going to run because I'm to the right of Nancy Pelosi or something.
Right. But you hear all these Democrats are always like, we're like, I'm not going to, I'll fight against the Pelosi wing of the party, which is an insane thing. But that's
right.
Yeah.
I mean, it's absurd. It's absurd. But that's been the rhetorical frame. I don't remember a time where an incumbent, particularly an incumbent senator, ran on, you need me to push our next president to the left.
Yeah.
To push our Democratic president.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
And I think that's indicative. I think that's what's so sharp about that ad too, is he knows where the Democratic primary electorate is. So there was some poll this week that, Joe Biden, like 56% of people are voting for Joe Biden because they want to vote against Donald Trump.
Yeah.
That's their number one reason for, which, I mean, that's his candidacy.
It is. That's what's his argument from day one.
But I think Harris will be aware of this and I don't know if that they'll, like I say, cipher. She will move to the left, and at the very least, and she will try and head off any challenge to her from the left.
Well, that was the funny thing about her candidacy, was that her candidacy was already an attempt to do that didn't work because the sort of people that would have appealed to already liked Bernie Sanders and Liz Warren more.
Yep.
But that was already her argument for her presidential campaign. So, and I don't think that the logic of that kind of campaign will still make sense 4 years from now.
Yeah, I mean, she'll have to move to the left. I mean, she'll have to have some bona fides.
Yeah,
right?
She'll have to actually like demonstrate that she's taking it seriously.
and I guess we'll see. I mean,
because that's actually one of the remarkable things about what feels like the Democratic primary electorate now is that is that they are, especially in I think the younger end of it, are like making these ideological distinctions because like Kennedy's running on a like I'm the insurgent progressive, and like I think we don't know what's going to happen in an election, but I think we have seen that's just not convincing anyone.
I think that's exactly right. That was my point. Why I think that Markey's been able to open up a lead because we have a Democratic primary electorate that is actually like digging in from an ideological perspective.
Yeah.
And they're finding out like, wait, you're Kennedy, but you're to the right of this guy.
Yeah.
and that doesn't, look, I grew up in Massachusetts and I can tell you that like the knee-jerk assumption about a Kennedy is that they are on the left margin of the party.
Mm-hmm.
And they're going to and they're class traitors and they're going to, fight for the average guy. I mean, it's just sort of like you're just raised with that belief.
Yeah.
And I don't know if the apple just, falls from the tree, falls from the tree, falls from the tree, as it gets further down, generationally. But I think this is, I think there's a certain amount of like poetry. If Kennedy loses, I think there's a certain amount of poetry involved in this, right? I mean, I think it really is a good indication that we have left. Kennedy loses in Massachusetts. I think it could be I don't know. I'm spitballing here, but I think it could be the first time that a Kennedy has lost a race in Massachusetts for 60 years.
Yeah. That could be true.
Like
I don't know.
Maybe even more than that. Like I think like Jack Kennedy may have lost, his first attempt at Congress.
Yeah.
And maybe Ted lost a race. I don't think so.
I don't think so either.
And I mean, that's a big deal.
Yeah.
And particularly losing because he's not to the left enough.
Yeah.
I think that is a good, that could be a good thing. All right, let's just talk about COVID relief for a moment.
Oh, God, yeah.
You and I have no doubt several months ago when we were checking on you, back when you just, you had a little bit of stubble maybe at the time and you were clean cut. We said, what's the leverage to get the Republicans back to the table?
Yeah.
And now we know
I think
there wasn't any.
I think we just saw. That's been the frustrating thing is like, it's not like we were not like the only ones wise enough to see that. Like you could see other people, you could see plenty of other people being like, okay, but like, what are you going to do when you want to pass all this other stuff we need? What are you going to do?
I wonder if you were on. We played earlier in the week the clip from Jake Tapper where she was from April, where he was like, but how and she said, we'll get to the state and city. Don't worry, we'll get there.
Yeah,
and Jake Tapper. If Jake Tapper is on it at that point, like, my feeling is that maybe this thing is pretty obvious to a lot of people. And Pelosi may get there a little bit, but look, you need to fund the post office.
Mm-hmm.
Because without funding the post office, that's Trump's whole game. If you don't fund the post office, they now have an excuse to go out and, for whatever it is, spend money on decommissioning and destroying sorting machines and saying that they can't deliver ballots, et cetera, et cetera. And I don't see how they're going to get both funding for states and cities and defunding of the post office. Funding for the post office. I don't see how that's going to happen. And the state and city thing, I mean, do you recall a couple of months ago, there was reporting, I think it was in Politico, maybe it was Axios, where Republican senators were saying, we're going to wait till Labor Day. And if Trump is still, in a death rattle after Labor Day, we're abandoning ship. Now, I'm not quite as clear that they have the balls to do that.
No, right.
But I think that's going to motivate what they're going to do. I mean, I think they may think in their mind, he's going to lose. Now, I may not come out against him.
Yeah.
But I'm certainly not going to help him. And the thing about not funding states and municipalities is that's like the Bruce Lee delayed kidney punch, right? You punch him, and then 3 weeks later he dies.
Yeah,
of kidney failure. Like, we're gonna feel the lack of municipal and state funding months from now.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to it has a ripple effect type of situation where they start cutting services, they start cutting workers. I mean, the big issue with the recovery back in 2008.
Yeah.
If you look at the recoveries, the Reagan and Bush 1 and Bush 2 recession recoveries, the thing that always leads in those recoveries is hiring of state and city workers.
Yep.
And it was the Obama administration that did not provide that funding, and it lagged. And that is why we had such anemic growth for so long in the wake of the 2008 financial crisis.
Yeah.
It works the other way too. When you start getting cuts from these states and cities, that has downstream effects that are really going to dig these incredible holes across the country in terms of the economy. And that's going to be sitting in Joe Biden's lap. And I'm not convinced that Mitch McConnell's like, that's best case scenario for us.
Yeah. I mean, it's interesting trying to figure out from the reporting what actually happened here, because, basically it read like McConnell's just not involved. He's just going to let the White House figure it out and sign off on whatever the White House does, because he's torn between his incredibly ideological Republican senators who genuinely do not give a shit about state and local cuts, and the ones who need to get reelected this year, who are, I think, we're begging for a deal, and we're let the Democrats pass a deal with some of our support, but all they needed was the White House to sign off on it. And so that in that scenario, it seems like a deal should be reachable. I cannot for the life of me figure out why. I guess Meadows. The state and local funding was the deal breaker. They were I think they could have gotten there on unemployment, but Meadows specifically was state and local funding, no way. And that seems at this point, I think if McConnell wants his caucus to survive, he should do something, right? What is he doing?
I think he's probably looking at the writing on the wall and saying I can't save them.
I can't save this. Yeah.
I mean, this thing, I'll tell you one thing that we did not talk about in terms of Kamala Harris. I don't think that she's going to I don't know that she's going to win any state for Joe Biden that he wasn't going to win. I don't know that there's a lot of people who are going to come out and vote. She might be able to drive some African-American vote in places like, Wisconsin or Michigan. But I'll tell you where I think she's really going to have an impact is with the African-American community in places like Georgia, South Carolina, North Carolina, Alabama. May or may not win any of those states. Maybe North Carolina is possible. Georgia's possible. But you got Jamie Harrison in South Carolina in a tight race. You got Warnock in Georgia in a tight race against Loeffler. People forget there's two races in Georgia.
Yep.
There's Ossoff versus Perdue. That doesn't look so good. But Warnock versus Loeffler is getting a lot less attention.
Yeah.
And this guy Warnock, he could win.
Yeah.
And Cal Cunningham in North Carolina against Tom Tillis, he's, I think, polling shows him out in front. I mean, and so Kamala Harris is the type of, just sort of demographic. She speaks to women of color in those those states, and can go in and drive votes there in a way that may not impact the presidential election, but could impact who takes the Senate.
Yeah.
And I think that, like, that's one thing that I think, Mitch McConnell could be looking at and going, like, right now I'm happy to let Mark Meadows, be the fall guy for crashing this whole thing.
Yeah.
And I have a feeling that, to a certain extent, the White House is rudderless.
I think that's the only way to read what happened in these negotiations. I wrote a thing this week basically that was like, I think Meadows was just there to be a wrecker. Like, they didn't want Mnuchin to get another deal. Like, they, meaning like Meadows and his ideological peers, did not want Mnuchin to just cut another deal, because Mnuchin, he cares about getting the money out. Like, he just wants the money out there. It's funny because the Democrats picked the wrong time to stick to their guns. You know what I mean? Like, we talked about how when they had all this leverage, they left all this stuff on the table, and now they're like, no, we're actually really serious about the keeping unemployment the same way it was, and we're really serious about the state and local budgets. And like, that's correct. That was also what you should have been saying all along.
Look, I'm also not convinced that because what you're expressing is that they're sort of like tactically have made a mistake, right?
Yeah.
I'm not convinced that they're also worried that Trump will actually do it.
Yeah.
And so they're going to say, like, their way of making Trump fall apart here is like, either you come to us and give us what we have called for, because anything less than that, you're going to get some credit for it, and we don't want you to get credit for it.
Yeah.
So I don't know, that could be the dynamic. Meanwhile, you have millions of people out of work. You have millions of people who are facing eviction. Just it's a crapshoot.
It's unbelievable how much unnecessary suffering is already happening and will happen. And man, you were right about I'm just thinking about here in New York, where like the governor does not want it. He doesn't want to raise taxes on rich people. Last thing he wants to do is raise taxes on rich people. Like, what the hell are we going to do? What is our budget going to look like? It's going to be terrible.
And I got news for Andrew Cuomo. You can go and have dinner with all these people out in the Hamptons, but they don't need to come back to New York City for you to tax them.
No,
Hamptons are in New York State.
Yeah, you can tax them there.
Exactly.
And then, we won't have to make thousands of cuts in the Department of Sanitation budget in New York.
It's going to be nuts, but we'll see. Alex Pareene, we will check in with you a little bit. Oh, I just got a text from Judy, Brendan, that Judy has not gotten her email with the Zoom information.
Do you want to share Judy's email over the Zoom call?
Well, text her and find out, because that could have been an old email. It was an AOL email. That could have been from decades ago, literally decades ago. Let me just, since you've got school age kids, right?
He's 3, so he won't be like real school age till pre-K next year.
So you're not dealing with this really?
No, I mean, I can't. It's I have friends who are, and it just seems like an impossible choice. I don't even really know.
Is horrible.
Yeah.
It is horrible. And I think to a certain extent, a lot of people were just hoping that Cuomo would say no school.
Yeah.
So that at least you don't have this.
I don't have to make this decision. Yeah,
because it's so difficult, and it's also ones where you're deciding for other people.
Yep.
Am I going to send my kid in, and is that going to is my kid going to be in school, and am I going to be in some way responsible for a teacher getting ill?
Yeah.
It's I just feel like this is it really is sort of it's stunning. I was talking to a friend of mine in production who was one of the few people in production who looked like he had a gig in North Carolina.
Mm-hmm.
And some his wife has a gig in Georgia in a big movie. And in the big movies, what they're doing is they're basically putting everybody into more or less camp.
Mm-hmm.
You come in, you get tested.
It's like the bubble, right?
And you're in the bubble.
Yeah.
Any other production, they're trying to test, but they cannot get the testing back in time.
Oh God, yeah.
They can't get back in time. It's useless.
Yeah.
And they're all starting to go to Europe because in Europe they do testing where you get the test back within 24 hours.
Yeah.
And we in America, we don't have the ability apparently to do this.
No.
It is so stunning.
Yeah.
And I've made this call before to folks. If you know of a reporter, a European reporter who can come on the show and talk about what's going on out there, because we hear none of this.
No,
I don't think Americans realize.
I don't think Americans know either that how the rest of the world dealt with it and what life is like in other places right now. I just don't think Americans are aware of it.
No, I don't think they have any clue as to like how poorly we have done on sort of the most basic, aspects of this. It really is stunning.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the one nice thing about being an American. You never ever hear when you are total F-ups.
You never have to learn how much better everyone else has it.
Exactly. Alex Pareene, always a pleasure. Folks can find the politics of everything everywhere.
Yep.
Just about everywhere, right?
Everywhere podcasts are. Yep.
All right, great.
All right.
Of course, check out your writing at the New Republic. Thanks again, Alex.
Of course, my pleasure.
We'll talk. We'll check back into you in a couple of weeks.
All right.
All right. All right, folks. And next up. Oh, wait, before we bring her on, don't we have a little ditty?
Oh, shoot. Let me look for that as she's on now.
Oh my God, she is really. Oh, that's awesome. Oh, wait a second.
I'm taking this picture out. Let's do that.
What are you going to put in there? Have you been doing, ladies and gentlemen, Judy Gold? Judy Gold.
Your hair looks so good, even though I hate you right now.
Beb, what? Where is that? Is that like a?
That's my house. That's
oh my
gosh!
House.
I'm in Provincetown.
Oh my gosh! Wow.
Very fancy.
That is very fancy.
Didn't I got all dressed up for you?
Well, thank you, Judy. I really appreciate that.
Sam, I'm so
you're a
proud.
best-selling author now.
Well, I wouldn't go that far, but
I mean, I would.
Okay, it's doing great. Sam, the hair is fucking excellent. Can we just talk about
my hair?
Your hair is so good.
Oh, well, thank you. I appreciate that.
And you're an MSNBC star now.
Thank you, Judy. That's very nice of you to say. Wait, can we get a graphic up of your book first? Brendan, put that up there. I want to promote your book, not my hair. Although we'll go into my hair regime shortly.
Look how fancy I am. I have it on a Kleenex box right here.
It's too far away. I can't read it.
Mm-hmm.
There it is, folks. Judy Gold. Yes, I can say that. When they came for the comedians.
When they come.
Oh, when they come for the comedians, we're all in trouble. Now, let's talk about this.
You're in this book. You're in this book. Yes.
I didn't get an advance copy.
Look, I can't. I have kids.
I understand. I have kids. Your kids are grown. Your kids are grown. All your kids do is do work around the house now.
That is so not true. One plays basketball for Tulane.
Wow.
Yeah. I have a Division I athlete that came out of my body.
That's
amazing. The other one is works at the Drew Barrymore show.
It works at the Drew Barrymore show?
Yes. Yes.
Drew Barrymore has a show?
Yes, she's going to have a new morning show. Which it's perfect timing with the Ellen debacle.
Well, wait a second. So how does somebody do a show?
So they have, as far as I know, they have a whole virtual studio. Like there's no studio audience, but the entire studio is being used. And they have a virtual audience. So she'll always have an audience there.
What?
Virtual. So I don't know. You know what? I don't know. I'm just trying to sell my book.
Well, tell me about the book. What's the deal with the book?
Oh, God. This Zoom is the worst. It's like, as my friend Maddie said, we've never looked worse and never had to look at ourselves more. It's so fucking annoying. Anyway.
Yes.
So the book is called Yes, I Can Say That. When they come for the comedians, we're all in trouble. First of all, where's my fucking theme song?
Matt?
Seriously, Matt.
Here it is. I didn't know you wanted it still, so here it is.
What the fuck?
Vamping for that.
Does anyone else have a theme song?
Very few people.
I know.
Level-headed.
Fuck you!
Calm, cool, and collected.
I have a bigger penis than him.
Judy Gold is on the line to keep us all connected.
What the fuck is the matter with him?
A steady hand to guide us. She'll keep us calm and carry on.
No fucking way!
Too bad Jimmy Reefer Cuck didn't find her worthy of a song. Well, Judy Gold.
And he's such a fucking penis head liar. I'm not kidding. That's the president of the United States. That's the president. What the fuck?
You know, it is so catchy.
It is very catchy.
And I use it for my mindful meditation in the morning.
I bet you do. I was just, it's been sort of shocking that how timeless it is too.
You know, I know we're supposed to talk about my book, but I can't fucking, like, you thought it couldn't get worse. You thought there was no way. The post office, you fucking piece of orange shit. How great was that guy yesterday who was like, how do you feel about the thousands of lies you've told in the last 3.5 years?
It would have been nice if there were other like the next reporter that Trump ignored.
Yeah, but the other, I know, he ignored it, and then the next one had no penis. So he's like, I want to ask about So I have this book, Yes, I Can Say That. When they come for the comedians, we're all in trouble. And it's about free speech from the perspective of a comedian and how laughter and satire and humor is so important because we tell the fucking truth. And stop being offended.
But that's not always true.
Okay, Sam, can I sell a fucking book? Seriously.
No, listen, I everyone should read this book. There's no doubt about it. But I mean, everyone doesn't have to agree with the entire premise, do they?
You cannot. First of all, a comedian gets on stage for what reason? To make you laugh. When you take intent, context, and nuance out of that formula, that's it. There's
okay. Wait a second. I don't want to race through that. So intent, context, and formula out of that.
Nuance.
And nuance out of that. But that's not always the case, right?
Right.
I mean,
but look, we've all gotten in trouble because people don't get nuance. But when you murder someone and you are on trial for homicide, your sentence is determined by your intent. And yet, people don't give comedians the same consideration.
I think that's fair. That's fair. I mean, certainly, like, in my own experience, I think it was quite clear.
Exactly.
What my satirical joke was. I was not actually calling for my daughter to.
Right, and it's in the book. It's in the book.
There you go. People can read about that in the book.
But you got so much backlash over a fucking joke. This motherfucker says whatever the fuck he wants. Pocahontas, she's a nasty. He's a fucking liar. He's dumb. He has no curiosity. He's a con artist. He's disgusting on so many levels. He wants SNL investigated. He can't have a comedian at the White House Correspondents' Center. He can't even go to the White House Correspondents' Center because his fucking orange skin is so fucking thin and his little mushroom dick is so tiny. And yet comedians are getting canceled and this motherfucker says whatever the fuck he wants. No. N-O.
Now, wait a second. Now, like, who's getting like, what comedians are getting canceled that you think, let me put it this way. What is it? First of all, what is it?
Kathy Griffin. Griffin.
When she held up the because she was mean to the president about the presidential which she held up his head.
The thing. Now, do you think Kathy Griffin, who to this day cannot answer her phone because all the threats and if she posted that photo today, do you think it would be the same backlash with the amount of people that motherfucker's killed?
Probably not.
Right. Okay. So Samantha Bee has had to apologize. Stephen Colbert has had to apologize.
For what?
He did a joke about Putin and like a blowjob-ish or a dick joke or a dick, so he had but his apology was great. Samantha Bee calling Yvonne cunt a feckless cunt, which, their apologies were nuanced, but they had to apologize. We're comedians. We're comedians.
But this also goes, it's one thing, is that cancel culture? Are they what is, just way into this whole cancel culture. On one level, what you're talking about is akin to the Smother Brothers getting canceled.
They're in there, baby.
Okay, well, getting canceled because they were mocking Nixon.
Right. And Johnson was lyndon upset about it. But you know what? Johnson, when they were canceled, well, they were really fired because Lyndon Johnson was friends with the head of CBS, but that's a whole other thing. But when they were canceled, Johnson wrote them a letter saying, look, I know it wasn't easy for me being fodder for your show, but that's why this country's great. It's part of my job. It's not the funnest part of my job, but I wish you well, and I wish you the best, and it was my honor to be... Can you imagine this fat, orange, lying, golf fuck, asshole piece of shit ever doing that?
No. And I have a problem with it when particularly when this comes from government. Right? And look, when it comes from corporations, that's the price you pay.
Right. I have that in the book.
Of a corporation.
Right. That's correct.
It's hard for me to imagine ever working in a full-time capacity for even a place like MSNBC successfully for an extended period of time, because I'm going to say stuff I think that a corporation is probably not going to want to be associated with.
Right.
And it's okay, you fire me because of that. That's your business.
That's fine. Right. But it's you sign a contract, you want the money. So you're all right, I won't do that. But you will love this. But I'm coming on after you read the book because you're going to fucking love it. But Gilbert, okay? Gilbert gets fired from Aflac, right?
Oh, Gilbert Gottfried, right?
Right, because he was doing tsunami jokes. And, the story is in the book. I interviewed him. And it is... He said, first of all, Twitter was new. I'm getting... All my fans are are you going to make a joke? Because that's what he's known for, making inappropriate jokes. So he's oh, sure. What happened? Oh, okay. He sent, he does these jokes. He finds out he's fired on Twitter. And that night he's watching the news and he says the newscaster's talking about the tsunami and, the destruction and the death and how horrible it is. And then the guy says, and to make matters worse, Gilbert Gottfried. And Gilbert said, with my stupid joke, I made it worse than it already was, He's I didn't even know I had that power or that I was that important. It's
well, that part is ridiculous, but the part that he gets fired by Affleck, look, it's a business.
I get it. That's in the book. That is in the book. If you work for a corporation, you have to, but they should have done their due diligence as well.
When they hired him.
Yes.
Well, screw that. He wants the money. He doesn't. I don't want him to do the due diligence.
Right.
And if somebody's going to hire me for something that I'm ultimately going to get fired for, I don't want him to do the due diligence. I'll take the money for those 6 months, and then I'll get fired.
White entitled prick.
Who, me?
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
All right. So, okay. So now, are there examples where someone should be fired? Where you feel didn't you write something, or wasn't there some hubbub about you saying that the guy, and I don't know really too much of the story about that SNL guy.
I know, and
who's that guy?
It's
What's
Shane Gillis, and he doesn't want me talking about it, which I understand. But unfortunately, journalists
keep asking you about it.
Right. Here's an example of nuance. Shane is funny. He's he had this great opportunity. They found this podcast where he's, I didn't know, but he's playing a character, but I didn't know that because as I listened to it twice, I listened to the whole thing. And, as I've since I've wrote that article, and I really wrote that article as a love, and a defense of comedy and the fact that here he is working for a corporation. That's exactly what my article was about. I never say he shouldn't be able to say whatever he said.
So wait, he was doing a character. You got to tell me a little bit more of the story because
Okay, so he does a character. He has a podcast, and they were doing a bit, I guess, about going to Chinatown. They were using, not great words.
Right? Is it obvious that he's doing a character, or is it? Like
I didn't know. Honestly did not know it was a character. I thought it was two guys just. Whatever.
I mean, someone could stumble on Ken, and Ken.
Right.
What Michael and I used to do.
Right.
And go like, oh my God.
Right.
What are they saying?
Right.
And who are these guys?
Right. So I wrote this saying, he's funny and he should be able to do stand-up. But they were saying it was political correctness, but it was not. It was the corporation. It was this corporate, I work for a company and now I don't have that freedom anymore. And so I think the article was very nuanced, yet people just attack me for that all the time and say I'm a hypocrite. But, Shane said he was pushing boundaries. And I, had been in the process of writing this book and was reading about Lenny Bruce and George Carlin and, Richard Pryor and all those who really did push boundaries and were jailed. Right. I mean, Lenny, his life ended over this. And I just felt that those weren't the correct words to use.
I am with you. I mean, look, this used to be, this notion of like people railing against, the idea that, I don't know. My feeling is this is like, you can do, and Lenny Bruce, the idea like Lenny Bruce would go and work for like, I'm going to do a Campbell's soup commercial.
Right.
Well, I got news for you, Chief.
No, you're not.
You're going to probably get in some hot water. You're not going to.
Pun intended.
Right.
Campbell's soup, hot water.
But and he couldn't get on, we've seen that before. Like, Kinison couldn't get on, and certainly, oh shoot. God, I can't remember his name now.
Are you going through menopause?
Believe me, on top of everything else.
I know.
No, not Kinison, but Hicks. Hicks couldn't.
Hicks is in the book. Dice is in the book. Stern is in the book. I mean,
and part of the reason why they all just stuck. Part of the reason why they all stuck with stand-up was because they wanted the freedom to be able to do their art. And they figured out a way of making money on it. And you didn't want to go on to a sitcom or something else like that because then you're constrained. I mean, that's
right.
This is the thing that I don't understand. Like, people don't realize, like, the reason why they pay you this money is not because like, there are a lot of people out there who are talented, but they're very rarely going to use all your talent. What they're going to do is they're paying you money to stay within
in their boundary. Yes. And for them to control you essentially. So it's like, I've been canceled. I got canceled twice last year from gigs because of, one said I don't know if I'm gay. I've never mentioned it before, but, yeah, I'm a lesbian.
Seriously?
Yeah, I'm really good at it. Been this way forever.
Right.
I could give you pointers, I bet, but your hair is,
Oh, thank you.
I mean, you must skip. All right. Anyway, we'll talk about that later.
No,
anyway, but, I had people. Now I do jokes about everyone. Everyone's equal opportunity. I've been called anti-trans. I mean, the last thing I am is anti-trans. But I do a joke about everyone. It's like being offended is a choice. It is a choice. If you can say, "Oh, I don't like that joke. That offends me," and move on with your fucking life, or you can let it control you and you want to stop that comic from ever working again because of one fucking joke. When, if your favorite songwriter writes a song you don't like, do you say, fuck them, they should never work again? Do you go to an art exhibit and you like all the paintings except for one and think that person should never be able to paint again? This is what the fuck is going on. And I got canceled from the Huntington Jewish Center because they said we're not singing from the same songbook because I guess they're Trump supporters. I thought there was one Jewy songbook, but I guess there's more than one. This idea that you can't enjoy this person's art because you don't agree with them politically is beyond.
But your art is not apolitical.
Right.
There's
plenty of conservatives who think
I don't
I'm
want to
funny.
hang this painting in my house. And if enough people say that, then it's just you're just one of those artists who didn't connect with people.
Okay, but you can still paint.
Well,
but when you're a comedian, you need an audience to do your art.
Well, but look, you can find an audience. It's just you're not going to find it at the Huntington Jewish Community Center.
Or you're not going to find it, period. You don't know.
Who's been canceled who hasn't, what comedian had an audience and then can't get a gig? Who?
Bill Cosby.
Well, okay. Although,
oh my God, I cracked myself up.
Is
Thanks,
he
folks.
in jail now? Is he in jail?
He's in jail, so he probably has an audience. He has an audience.
I bet you he does.
Yeah.
I bet you he has a very rapt audience.
Yeah. Was Michael Richards? Does he have an audience?
Was he doing stand-up that much? I mean, was he a particularly good stand-up?
I don't know.
I mean, I remember.
Yeah.
I mean, I think
I love all these people.
I think it's hard
who decide they can do stand-up.
I think right. I mean, I think it's harder for famous people to get away with sort of walking the edge in a comedy club because it used to be, 25 years ago. If you were a well-known person, you walk into the Comedy Cellar at 1 a.m, you could try out stuff that you could have total risk because there's 15 people in the club and they're not going to go around. But now somebody's going to
forget it. Well, now
there's really millions of people in that club. If
you're not allowed to bring your phone in that club anymore. But that doesn't stop someone from leaving the club and saying this one did a joke and it was racist or homophobic or.
But who though has honestly suffered like not suffered, but because you and I agree. You work for a corporation. You cannot expect that you're going to have your full artistic abilities. You're not going to be able to exercise your full artistic abilities because you've decided to commodify it.
Right.
And commodify it in the most extreme way. That's a choice that people can make.
Right.
That's up to them.
Mm-hmm.
But those are the terms. And I don't know, I remember when I was in Boston doing comedy, my parents called me and go like, oh, there was the Temple Brotherhood had Lenny Clark in and everyone was very upset. He came to the Aku
right.
And just, but Brenda just said Louis C.K. Louis C.K. lost a lot of his.
I know, but I write about him in the book too. But he still can perform.
He can still perform. He goes in and he sells out shows all around the world.
Right. And if you don't like him, or you don't think he's funny because you know more about him, then don't go to the show. But don't say he can never do his art again.
But people can say he can never do his art again, but they can't make it so that he can't.
What about
Woody
Allen? What about Woody Allen?
Woody Allen still can do his art too.
In Spain.
Well, okay, but I can't.
Right.
That's just it is. Look, I don't know. I still have no sense of what the reality of that situation is, but it's not like the guy's not able to go out and make movies. It's not like he's been jailed. It is he got on the wrong side of his audience. And I don't know. It's like, well, I think to a certain extent too, what's happening in the world is that there are, and I don't know if it's in the comedy world, but just broadly speaking, we have been living under a certain sort of like social regime, as it were, of where the boundaries have been and where the dynamics have been. People have succeeded under those rules. And now we have a situation where the rules are changing. Like,
there's some of that. It's not all that. Like Nimesh Patel, who's a great comic. Okay. Nimish, I think. I always say it wrong. All right. He's in the book. He was doing a show at Columbia, does this really brilliant joke, and they cut his mic off and tell him to leave. They don't listen to... Huh?
They pay him? They pay him?
No, I don't think so.
They should have paid him.
It's in the book. Book. But Ahmed was doing a show in Florida. He opens his set with any other Middle Easterners here, or I don't know where exactly he's from. And they clap, and he said, it only takes one of us to tell a joke. The next night, he's getting ready for a show, and the police walk in. Someone called the police on him. They felt threatened. I mean, this is fucking beyond.com ridiculous. And I wrote the book because they came to me because I was on a piece on Vice News. They were doing a piece about how college bookers are telling comedians what they can and cannot say on stage because they're protecting the students from hearing bad words or thinking. And I was the opposing view. And let me tell you something. What the fuck is this idea that you can never feel uncomfortable? That you have to be shielded? That you need a safe space? Let me tell you something. Every safe space has a door to the real world, and it's not fucking pretty. So, fuck.
My sense is that, look, there was the same dynamics that existed 40 years ago. Mm-hmm. The difference was that there was no ability for people to complain about it. So it was like, you can't come here and start talking about how, for instance, you cannot come and say that you can't say this stuff about Catholics. You can't say this stuff about Catholics. I mean, look at Lenny Bruce, right? Like, I mean, like but
they got him on the cursing. I mean, they arrested him for cursing, but it was really what he was talking about.
But it was what really, he was talking about, right? And the point is that was the government and society basically narrowly tailoring everything. The difference was that there wasn't.
Can you say tailoring one more time?
Yeah, I can. But the difference was that there was no sort of like means in which the rest of the culture could respond to that.
Right.
And what has happened is it's flipped. The power dynamic, at least in terms of like within the culture, has changed. And there are
I don't agree.
There's always been rules. There's always been rules.
But it's like this idea of, I talked to Ira Glasser, who was the head of the ACLU. And I was like, why is this? Why does he get away with saying Pocahontas and grab the pussy? And it's power. It's power. And once you shut one person down and say, I don't want any conservative people speaking at my college, then they can come back and say, well, I don't want liberal people speaking at my college. And then who decides? The dean? Like, who are you to put?
They've been saying that all along. They've been saying all
Do you think Don Rickles, one of my chapters, thank God Don Rickles is dead. How do you think he would be received?
I don't think he would be received well now.
Right.
But do you think when Don Rickles was when Don Rickles was at his heyday, that any of the comedians you've mentioned would even be allowed to be on stage? Do you think that someone named Patel would be allowed to be on stage? No way. No effing way. That's my point, is that the only thing that's changed, we have always had this culture that has limits and boundaries. The only thing that's changed is that what those boundaries were have shifted pretty dramatically in a fairly short period of time.
I get it. But we've also decided words that mean one thing to me and mean something else to you. That means I can't say that word.
Well, you can say it.
And you can talk about anything as long as it's funny. Craft a fucking well-written joke. But don't, just because this word triggers you doesn't mean that I can't, say, or this topic triggers you. That means, you can't say it because it might offend one person in the audience. So that means no. That's what's happening.
But if I'm going to hire you to come play in front of my audience, I have two choices. I can either say, Judy, please don't swear. When you come onto the Majority Report today, please don't say the F word. And you could say, I'm going to. And I'd say, you know what? I can't have it.
Then I would be like, what the fuck happened to you? Like, seriously.
But my point is that, like, it's you're not saying like that comedians necessarily have to be booked at the Huntington Jewish Community Center.
Right,
like,
I'm
not
not
all comedians. And it's
But you already booked me. You booked me. You gave me a deposit. And then you read my Twitter feed, or the head of the men's club read your Twitter feed.
Deposit, right? You got to keep.
They wanted the deposit back. I said, no fucking way. I can't even rebook. I can't even rebook that date. I lost that date. I had booked. I didn't have time to get another booking for that date.
You got to get a bigger deposit, is what it is really. That's what the name of the book should have been.
I know. Give me a bigger fucking deposit. And yes, I did say that. You fucking asshole.
What was the original name of the book? Was it to get a bigger
It was,
deposit?
yes, I can say that. Fuck you if you can't take a joke. And then they changed it to when.
Is that really true?
Yes. And in some of the, when they first announced it, it was, fuck you if you can't take a joke. But like F, number sign, whatever.
Right.
And then I got a new editor and she was like, really. I got.
The book form.
The book itself. Yeah. But I don't know. I mean, it's more me. Fuck you if you can't take a joke. But maybe I'll get more work from it because it doesn't have fuck on the cover.
I mean, that's the point though, right?
Yes, it is, Sam. You're very smart.
You're
very good looking and very smart. And annoying.
That's true. I mean, I certainly have been told the latter.
Wait, can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
So you were filling in for Chris Hayes, right?
That's right. Yeah.
Which the one thing I find annoying about Chris, even though he's brilliant, is tight on all in. Okay. Were you nervous?
Was I nervous?
Yeah.
The last time I had done that, at the 8 p.m. show, I filled in for him on Up with all with Chris.
Yeah.
I don't know, like 8. But the last time I did it was for Olbermann. And
right.
I did it like 4 or 5 times within like a course of like 3 or 4 weeks. The last time was like 4 days before he quit. I was so nervous doing that at that time. Like, I thought at one point I was having a heart attack.
No way.
On air. And
no way.
I think I said at the break to the guys, like, I think I'm having a heart attack. If I am, just keep the cameras rolling because this will be big on YouTube. And it turned out I just had gas. I just had gas. But I wasn't that nervous in this situation.
Do you think that's because you're more comfortable with yourself and you don't give a shit? Like, I find.
I think part of it is that, like, there was not very high stakes. It wasn't. I'm not going to get a show. I hate to break it to everybody, but I'm not getting a show, and I'm not really looking for a show on MSNBC, and I'm not looking to be more of a contributor than I am. Like, it's fun to do. I enjoy it. I like the idea of saying that, like, I mean, to be honest, like, I like the idea of like looking back at my career and saying, I was on a sitcom with Vicki Lawrence,
right?
And I hosted a cable news show,
right.
There's not many people who can say that. I like that part of it, and so I wasn't particularly nervous. I think I've gotten better at reading from doing the AM Quickie, to be honest with you. And I didn't feel like the content, I didn't feel like I was at, I give myself like a B on the content side in terms of questions. I felt comfortable, but things got jumbled around so much with, we were supposed to have Sanders and there was a technical problem. And then there was a technical problem with Cory Bush, and we had the press conference beforehand. So all the scripts changed and this and that. But for the most part, I was comfortable. I wasn't that nervous.
Did you like when Rachel was like, "Oh, I haven't seen you since"?
That was pretty funny because I hadn't contemplated. Like that was the one thing I hadn't even thought about.
Right.
And so I was sort of surprised. You know, I've seen that handover sitting in that, in that studio many times, but it's between Chris and her.
Right.
And one of those moments like, oh, she's talking to me. And then it was weird.
And I remember doing her show at Air America, and you guys all at Air America. It was very fun. And she was so fucking smart. But
That's true.
Yeah, but you're
All
good
of
at
them.
it. You're good at it.
Well, thank you, Judy. That's very sweet.
And
Maybe
you're
that
so
should be the name.
handsome. Like, I don't get it. We're not the best looking people, the Jews.
The Jews.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've had a lot of.
Oh my God, I can't believe she said that. What are you talking about? And yeah, you're lucky. You got the hair. You're
Thank you.
smart. What
That's
the
very-
fuck? Are you
that's very
getting
sweet.
a lot of? You're getting a lot of.
Oh, COVID's been very good to me.
Really?
No.
Oh.
What are you talking about?
I don't know. You can
What are
sext.
you doing with the book? Like, you can't go in on a book
Virtual.
tour.
I literally, Sam, I sit here all day, and sometimes I have makeup on. Sometimes I do my hair, but I Zoom podcasts. I did the Today Show from here. Oh,
Really?
I got bumped from.
Did you swear? Did you swear on the Today Show?
No.
All right. Why?
I know what's appropriate.
Right.
It's a network.
I understand.
Yeah. I got bumped from The View because of John Lewis's 4-month-long funeral.
Well, I mean,
Which is fine because he deserves, it should go on and on and on. That man was fucking
and they never had
incredible.
you back.
They went on hiatus the fucking next week.
Unbelievable. Those guys.
I mean, I have the luck.
Yeah. No,
Mhm.
I've been there. I have that same dynamic.
Yeah. Jew. That's the Jew thing.
Yeah.
And how are the kids?
Insane.
Yeah.
Totally.
I
insane.
feel sorry. That's the thing. I'm going to do an episode of my podcast with kids and to talk about COVID because we don't hear what they're thinking and what they're missing. It's like everyone's making these decisions for them. What about what they have thoughts and feelings and ideas?
Maybe you should have Mylon.
I'll do it.
Well, we could talk about it. I try and keep her out.
Oh God, what the fuck? Why you do that and then you pull back? This is why you can't stay in a relationship.
That's
Yeah.
also true.
Oh, maybe I don't know. If
Yeah. That was an idea for a moment, but
Yeah.
it didn't
Mhm.
last. So, Judy, well,
I want you to. Yeah. Go ahead.
I'm going to buy your book.
Oh, do you not want me to send it to you?
Well, no, I'm going to buy a book of you. I mean, it's like the time for you to send it to me has already passed. I mean, I might as well buy it now. I mean,
Look, there was a fucking pandemic, and so half this shit that was supposed to get done didn't get done.
I understand. But I am very excited to read it. I forgot that I was in it.
Yeah, we had a whole thing. Yeah,
We did. We talked so long ago.
It was 2 years ago.
Oh my God.
Year and a half ago.
And this is a best-selling book.
It's doing well.
I call it a best-selling book. That's what I call it.
That's why I love you.
That's what I call it. It's a Majority Report bestseller.
That's
And you can
right,
put that
baby.
on,
Can I tell you how many people come up to me after show? Remember when we used to do shows?
Yeah.
And would be like, I heard you on Majority Report. When you're going back, you have loyal, amazing fans. Your fans are fucking great. But I am doing shows here in Provincetown twice a week.
Oh, so what do? Do you go do outdoor shows?
Outdoor shows.
Yeah. What? Just before you go, what are comedians doing right now? These outdoor shows?
Right. So I did in June when I was back in New York. I did a show at the Bel Air Drive-In Movie Theater. I was standing on the back of a flatbed truck. The audio went into the car radio, so they laughed by flashing the light. So I'm like, I was doing stupid like, hey Audi, hey, so what's your fucking problem? Someone needs an inspection.
That's like a surreal Like that is like a dystopic movie. Like,
I know.
Laughing by flashing the lights.
Lights. I was like, I don't care. I just have to get this out. And then, but they've been doing shows. The virtual shows suck, but they've been doing shows like on at Central Park. Stand Up New York is doing them all over Prospect Park, Central Park. But here in Provincetown,
still Kenny Hoffman?
No, he's been gone forever.
Oh, has he?
Yeah, Coffee Breathman. And so I'm working at the Crown and Anchor here. They have it's a club, but they have, it's like a complex. They have a restaurant and a I was going to say disco, but then I sound like I'm 87,000 years old. But so they have an outdoor area by the pool, and they set up a stage. The audience is 25 feet away. The maximum was 100, but now the Governor Baker said 50. So with the social distancing, they could fit maybe 85, and now it's going to be like in the 40s because he had to cut it in half. And now, but I don't care. I hate saying this because it's so anti-me, but I feel grateful. Oh God, that was hard. That I get to perform twice a week.
Right.
In front of
people don't understand. Like this is it's aside from like a lot of comedians are hurting because of cash, and musicians the same situation. This is a living for people, but it's also, I think, you can play your music in your house. You can't really do your stand-up in your house. And people are like for stand-ups to go a week without performing. I don't think people fully appreciate this. It's like, I don't know. It's like that jogging junkie that that needs to jog every day.
Every single day. Otherwise, your muscles lose it's like not going to the gym. And also it's interesting because
I don't do either, but
your arms look good.
I don't go to the gym. I don't do anything.
You have good genes. But it is the perfect storm for comedy because everyone's in the same boat. Yeah. And we need to laugh. And yet, here we are. Because that fucking piece of shit, orange fuckface. Take care.
Judy Gold, on that we should end. I appreciate it. And folks, please go buy the book. Where do you like people to buy it?
Well, I like people to buy wherever they're in a lot of bookstores, indie bookstores. If you go to my website, it's like you can get it at your favorite bookstore, judygold.com.
What is your website? Is judygold.com?
Yeah, but just spelled the regular way. As you know, my Instagram and all that and Twitter is JEWDYGOLD because I'm a Jew, but my website is judygold.com. And then the audiobook was in the New York Times New and Noteworthy this past Sunday.
I bet. Oh my God, of course you should get the audiobook.
The audiobook is great because there's so much material in there of other comics that I use as examples. So I try to give the essence of their voice or delivery and people love it. Oh, I hate my voice. I'm not listening to it.
I got to hear that.
Yeah.
Judy Gold, I love you. Thanks so much.
I love you guys. Thank you for having me. You too. Bye.
Judy Gold, ladies and gentlemen. Judy Gold. Let's head into the fun half. It's going to be a truncated fun half today, but nevertheless, it will still be fun. Just a reminder, this program relies on you, our members, for support. You become a member at jointhemajority.report.com. You not only support the free show, you get extra content every day. Don't forget amquickie.com. That you can sign up there for the free 6-7 minute every morning in your podcast server. Maybe we'll figure out a way of emailing it to people. That might be helpful too, actually. You can also get it on the app at majorityapp.com. Check it out there. Don't forget justcoffee.coop. Fair trade coffee, tea, or chocolate. Use the coupon code majority. Get 10% off. I'm going to pour a little more for myself right now. Actually, this is the Maya Super Dark, but you also can get the Majority Report blend. And don't forget, check out Nomiki's show. You can find it at patreon.com/The Nomiki Show or youtube.com/The Nomiki Show. Nomiki is doing daily coverage at 3 p.m. next week of the DNC. So check that out. We'll remind you then, but go check out her stuff right now. Jamie, are you there? Hello?
Hello? It's me?
Yeah, Jamie.
All right.
Why is it like Jamie always is like on that quadrant and then moves up to that quadrant? Does that happen to anybody else?
I'm not. It depends on the layout of your Zoom, I think. Actually, you guys are stacked one on top of each other for me.
I don't understand how Zoom makes decisions.
To the viewers, though, you guys are side by side.
Oh, is that right?
It's probably some
now is to the
sinister
viewers.
algorithm.
Is Jamie right over there?
Yes.
Okay.
Oh wait.
So,
yes, exactly.
Jamie?
Yep. Yes.
So, Jamie, what's happening? You're looking the wrong way, Jamie.
You're still looking at the
Not
computer,
on my
Sam.
screen. Okay. Am I looking at you now?
No, look the other way, Jamie. There you go.
I feel like the Brady Bunch or something.
So, Jamie, tell me what's up with what's going on with the Antifada?
Well, this week on the Antifada, we have on the elusive Virgil Texas to talk about all of the letters that the old lefties from way back are sending to the young lefties to try to convince them to support Joe Biden, who they're really for, what they're doing, yada, yada. At the end, we make an endorsement. You got to listen to it to find out. And then today, we just released a bonus for our patrons, wherein we continue talking to Virgil about the coronavirus crisis, policies and how they may or may not benefit the working class, partying in these trying times, and much, much more. I should also say we have reached our goal of 1917 in terms of patrons. So anyone, yeah, I'll wait for the drop. So anyone who joined before we hit that number should be able to expect a little thank you card in the mail very soon.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. And that really was our ideal number. So if anyone else joins and ruins our 1917, I'm calling the cops.
There you
Did
go.
you decide on that number?
Oh, just calculations involving lots of different complicated things.
It's a numerology thing.
They like prime numbers, so it's
It's math.
1917 a prime number?
19 and 17.
Oh.
You guys,
Nice.
you guys wouldn't understand the complex mathematical calculations that went into that, but yeah, we hit it. So that's pretty exciting.
Matt.
Yeah, on TMBS on Tuesday, we had Dr. Drew Mikhael, the Belfast-based researcher who lived in Beirut. He talks to us about the explosion in Beirut and the rage that's developed towards the ruling class there. A lot of anger, and it's, just horrifying that ammonium nitrate blew up right next to the grain silo, which is, not something you want to have happen during a pandemic. So check out that. It was a really good interview. The first one, David, Leisha, and I did jointly, and I think we did a pretty good job on it. So go check it out. Patreon.com/TMBS to support our work.
All right, folks, we're going to take a quick break and then head into the fun half. We'll take some IMs. We'll try and take a couple of calls. Maybe I shouldn't even turn it on. I feel bad when people hold on to the phone thing and we don't get there. So let's just do IMs today. You can IM the show via majorityapp.com. See you in the fun half. Left is best. Jamie and I may have a disagreement.
Yeah, you can't just say whatever you want about people just because you're rich.
I have an absolute right to mock them on YouTube.
He's up there buggy whipping like he's the boss.
I am not your employer.
I'm tired of the negativity.
I'm sorry. I didn't mean to upset you. You're nervous. You're a little bit upset. You're riled up.
Yeah, maybe you should rethink your defense of that, you fucking idiots.
We're just going to get rid of you.
All right.
But dude. You want to smoke this joint?
Yes.
Do you feel like you are a dinosaur?
Some good shit.
Exactly. I'm happy now.
It's a win-win.
It's a win-win-win.
Oh, hell yeah.
Now listen to me. 2, 3, 4, 5 times. 847-906-501457. 238.
56, 27, 1/2, 5/8, 3.9 billion.
Wow. He's the ultimate math nerd.
Don't you see?
Why don't you get a real job instead of spewing vitriol and hatred, you left-wing Limbaugh?
Everybody's taking their dumb juice today.
Come on, Sammy.
Dance, dance, dance. Rand Paul. I had my first post-coital scene with a woman. I'm hoping to add more moves to my repertoire. All I have is the dip and the swirl.
Fine, we can double dip.
Yes, this is a perfect moment.
No.
Wait, what?
You make under $1 million a year. You're scum. You're nothing.
Excuse me? Fuck you, you fucking liberal elite. I think you belong in jail.
Thank you for saying that, Sam. You're a horrible, despicable person.
All right, gonna take a quick break. I want to take a moment to talk to some of the libertarians out there. Take whatever vehicle you want to drive to the library. What you're talking about is jibber jabber.
Classic. I'm feeling more chill already.
Good. Donald Trump can kiss all of our asses.
Hey, Sam. Hey, Andy. You guys ready to do some evil?
Hitler was such an idiot.
That guy might be a Nazi.
Agree.
No.
Death to America.
You.
Yes.
Wow.
Wow, that's weird. No way. Unbelievable. This guy's got a really good hook.
Throw our hands up.
Ooh. Wow.
But Sam, I gotta get off.
No worries. Let's. I want to just flesh this out a little bit. I mean, look, it's a free speech issue. If you don't like me,
Hey! Shut up!
Thank you for calling into the Majority Report. Sam will be with you shortly.
We are back. It's the fun half of the Majority Report, ladies and gentlemen. You can IM the show. Wait, why is that offline? What the heck? Huh. Weird. I wonder if that's because we got to do... Oh, no. I hope this isn't the case. Come on.
What's going on? Are the IMs all rerouted to Binder?
I think it's possible that
I'm seeing them.
You're seeing no I'm trying to get on Adium, and there's some reason I don't know why that's not working. Maybe we'll see. Well, right now we're not getting any IMs either, so I don't get why that's happening.
IMs are canceled.
I don't want to be offline. I want to be online. Oh, I know why. I don't have any internet service. What the heck?
How are you talking to us? Through the willpower?
I have two computers. And my IM one is not online. That's weird. Oh, come on. Annoying. Sorry, everybody. Bear with me. Let's go right into this. You know, Jamie, one of the things that you're a vegan, and so this is not going to be a reason for you not to vote for Joe Biden or Kamala Harris. In fact, it may be something may give you another reason to vote for Kamala Harris and Joe Biden, because
as if I need it anymore.
Right. Well, according to Mike Pence, they're going to abolish meat. Here we go.
Joe Biden and Kamala Harris would bury the economy under an avalanche of red tape, more regulation, and more bureaucracy. In fact, the California senator that he named as his running mate this week said during her short campaign for president that Americans needed to be, and I quote, educated about the effect of our eating habits on our environment. Senator Kamala Harris said she would change the dietary guidelines of this country to reduce the amount of red meat Americans can eat. Well, I've got some red meat for you.
we're not going to let Joe Biden and Kamala Harris cut America's meat.
Normal.
God.
That was normal.
Oh my God. Wow.
And Joe Biden and Kamala Harris even have a $2 trillion plan to abolish fossil fuels.
What's
He
the
wants
deal
to
with that?
rejoin the Paris Climate Accord and implement his own version of the Green New Deal. And I don't have to tell all of you. These radical left policies would devastate America's farmers and ranchers.
Green New
By
Deal,
contrast,
more like the
President
mean
Trump
New
has put an
Deal.
all of the above energy strategy on the table that's driving an American energy renaissance, and we're exporting energy to the world, and we're going to keep expanding.
You know what is weird? I forgot about, like, when Trump ran, we never saw Mike Pence campaign. And I have to say, that's a guy who cannot deliver a speech, even to his own people. That was one of the most awkward things I've ever seen from a sitting vice president, a politician. That was weird. He's bad at this. I forgot about that. He's really, I mean, when he was governor of Indiana, his approval rating was like high 30s, I think, when Donald Trump rescued him. Now, he's very good with the God Squad. They love him because he's such a, he is a theocrat. But boy, he is not a retail campaigner. 2024, I think he's going to have a lot of problems. I think carrying, or 20, I don't know. I mean, if Trump was to win another election, I think he'd have a tough time in 2024.
Yeah. And on top of that, like, think about who his audience is, right? It's a bunch of old people. Like, don't you think they'd find it nice if the president and vice president would come to their house and cut their meat for them?
Exactly. What a weird phrasing, though. Like,
that was, I always
cut our meat.
It sounded so like I always lost it with like Freudian theory when it started talking about castration and stuff like that. It just seemed a bit too like, I don't know. But I need to read some Freud after hearing him say, "You're not going to cut our meat." Like, okay, bro.
It was so awkward. He is not practiced at giving speeches. Has he not given a single speech in the past 4 years? I just found it like a completely awkward presentation. This
Not
is
everyone's got the special sauce.
I mean, honestly, I don't remember seeing anybody that stiff give a speech in a long time.
Well, maybe that's why Trump likes him. You know, he's never going to overshadow his rhetorical greatness.
Mike's not good at giving a speech, but all the Christians love him. So he's blessed. Bless his heart. Bless his heart. Really awkward, though. Really awkward. Cut my meat? What does that mean, Mike? Cut their meat? What?
It sounds like Trump would probably say something like that, but he would just pull it off with panache.
Yes, I think so. And it would, but and then there was all these sort of like awkward pauses where the audience, and it felt like Pence couldn't figure out, like, is this the laugh line? Go ahead and play the first, just like 30 seconds of that again. Because there's just sort of these weird, awkward pauses where the audience is sort of saying, like, are we supposed to laugh right now? And then some, like, just play it again. With sound this time.
Joe Biden and Kamala Harris would bury the economy under an avalanche of red tape, more regulation, and more bureaucracy. In fact, the California senator that he named as his running mate this week said during her short campaign for president that Americans needed to be, and I quote, educated about the effect of our eating habits on our environment.
Wow.
Wow. Ha ha ha.
Senator Kamala Harris said she would change the dietary guidelines of this country to reduce the amount of red meat Americans can eat.
Wow.
Those are cows.
Well, I've got some red meat for you. We're not going to let Joe Biden and Kamala.
Oh,
what happened? Did we lose Brendan?
We might have lost Brendan.
Oh, no.
Right on the cut your meat part.
Right on the cut your meat part. And everybody was just sort of looking like, he's going to cut our meat. That's gross.
He's bringing it home.
Brendan. Do we not have the ability to?
I'm trying to remove his shared screen.
Oh, there we go. Brendan put the Brendan, are you still there? Brendan's gone.
I just got put back in. Sorry, that happened. What's up?
Well, Brendan, you're going to have to say it for us.
Yeah, say the meat part, Brendan.
Let Joe Biden and Kamala Harris
cut our meat like a gay French king.
There was a quality of what Pence was doing, which was very much like sounded like Seinfeld at one point. What's with that?
But his cadence is still like George W. Bush. It's like an Indiana guy trying to do a Bush impression sometimes.
You're not gonna cut my. Well, they want to cut my meat.
I mean, if they were actually gonna do that, I'd think it's fine. But I mean, maybe. I heard a critique, I want to say on Chapo the other day, that like the Democrats have all like the big government nanny state parts of a social democracy, but none of the stuff that people actually like.
I mean, there's some of that. I think so. I mean, I would like them to come and open this bottle because I can't get it. I can't get it open. It's get stuck on the lid, and I keep banging the bottom, and I can't get them to. I can't get it. If they can come and open this. All right, let's go to here's Donald Trump. Remember the other day we were talking about there was this, and I've been really fixated a little bit on why the right, and they clearly had this, somewhat coordinated. It was clumsy. They were all coming out making the point that Kamala Harris is not an African American, that she's Jamaican and Indian. And it's unclear to me. And I think it ties in, I think, with like phony Kamala, that she's sort of pretending to be an African-American. I don't know. This is all just sort of theory I have here because it really doesn't make sense to me. Like, I don't know who they're speaking to.
I don't think it's that terribly complicated. They're just doing racism however they can.
But I mean, there's a lot of different ways of doing racism. Like this, they're trying to sort of, they did this with Obama and it didn't work. They kept saying like, he's really only, he's only really half black and this and that. Here's Donald Trump, maybe just thinking like, let's play the hits again. This is Donald Trump making the point, some people are saying.
I have 2 questions. The first one on domestic politics. There are claims.
Can't understand a word you're saying.
There are claims circulating in social media that Kamala Harris is not eligible to run for vice president because she was an anchor baby, I quote. Do you or can you definitively say whether or not Kamala Harris is eligible, meets the legal requirements to run as vice president?
So I just heard that. I heard it today, that she doesn't meet the requirements. And by the way, the lawyer that wrote that piece is a very highly qualified, very talented lawyer. I have no idea if that's right. I would have assumed the Democrats would have checked that out before she gets chosen to run for vice president.
No.
But that's a very serious. You're saying that they're saying that she doesn't qualify because she wasn't born in this country.
He's doing it again. Birther Part 2.
Well,
that is
worked
really,
the first time.
I guess the Democrats really should have done their homework and checked to see if she was eligible to be president, vice president. That is a huge mistake. Sorry, we're gonna have to do a read. Klobuchar, bring in Klobuchar.
Yeah, it's a very highly respected lawyer, and trust me, I go through a lot of lawyers.
It's like when a critically acclaimed band has kind of a dud for their sophomore album, the third one, they really try to get back to basics.
Right. He's really trying to again, like, hey, it's quite a coincidence that every black person who tries to run for office is actually from a different country. It's what a coincidence. I'm not in charge of that, but that just seems to be the way that it works. We're going to need to see the birth certificate. We're going to need to see the birth certificate. Otherwise, it's not real. I mean, I guess it's sort of like going back to, you gotta go with the band. What was it? The band that played you in, right?
Yeah, I'm honestly a little surprised no one's brought up the fact that her dad is a Marxist academic yet, because that seems like some red meat, so to speak.
You know what? That's actually a really good point. I mean, like her dad is her Reverend Wright, or
But like you said, that didn't depress the turnout. That actually like made the left probably vote for Obama and think he was cooler. So they don't maybe want to talk about her dad.
I honestly, like, I've said this before. When the Reverend Wright stuff came out, I was like, hey, maybe he actually is doing that whole thing where it's like he's just playing it cool because he knows it's the only way that he can get into office. And then, it took about, 6 to 8 months, and I was like, he really didn't listen to anything that Reverend Wright ever said. He never showed up at that. He never showed up in the pew.
It would be cool.
It would be cool, but woulda, coulda, shoulda. Here is Donald Trump. This is, Donald Trump was saying that because Biden and Harris are going to allow an invasion of the suburbs. Now, that is done in the passive voice, right? It doesn't like, an invasion requires an invader. And he left that out of the construct. And at the press briefing yesterday, some hardworking reporter said, like, who are the invaders? And here's Donald Trump trying to make it clear that he was not talking about the invaders that he envisioned are not, necessarily non-white. Here's what he's saying.
Please.
Thank you, Mr. President. You have warned several times that if Joe Biden is elected president, that there will be an invasion in suburban neighborhoods. It's a sentiment that you expressed in a tweet again this morning. What exactly do you mean by invasion?
What I mean is people are going to become, they're going to be opening up areas of your neighborhood, which they're doing, and now they wanted to expand it, and they will expand it. If for any reason they're going to, in my opinion, destroy suburbia. And just so you understand, 30% plus of the people living in suburbia are minorities. African American, Asian American, Hispanic American, they're minorities, 30%. The number's even higher. They say 35, but I like to cut it a little bit lower. You know why? That way I can never get myself in too much trouble with the fake news. But 30% plus are minorities living in suburbia. And when they go in and they want to change zoning so that you have lots of problems, where they want to build low-income housing, you want something where people can aspire to be there, not something where it gets hurt badly. And that's what happens. So with suburban women, suburban men, I think they feel very strongly about what I'm doing. It's a very fair question. It's a very important question. But they fought all their lives to be there, and then all of a sudden they have something happen that changes their life and changes what they fought for so many years. John, please.
There you have it. He wants to make it clear. I'm not saying that the suburbs are going to be invaded by black people. I'm saying they're going to be invaded by poor people. And I want to keep them out. The problem with Trump, I think, in this instance, is that, and he's clearly getting polling, right, that is showing you're starting to bleed, particularly women in the suburbs. You're starting to bleed that support, which is the case. he takes it so he doesn't know how to sort of nuance this in. And so he just immediately goes out there and goes, I have a problem with women in the suburbs. So women in the suburbs, they're going to let poor people in and it's going to ruin your houses. Like there's no, you can't even come up with any type of subtle way of saying that. And I think the problem with him saying it that way is it makes people feel bad about themselves a little bit. They want the cover of feeling like, oh, that's not what it's about. Like, I mean, if he come in and said like, they believe in high density building in the suburbs, and that's not why people go out there, then people go, hey, that's right, I don't want high density building or something like that. But instead he goes like, it's poor people going to invade you. And then people are going to feel bad about themselves for feeling that way. And I think he's so ham-fisted with that stuff. I really think that the best strategy for him is to shut down the post office and make it impossible for people to vote.
Yeah, I mean, you're probably right. That said, this is a strategy that has worked in the past, going back to Nixon and Reagan, just trying to fearmonger with people who maybe did work hard to have this suburban lifestyle and they don't want to think of themselves as racist. I actually remember reading some quotes from people who switched from Democrat to Republican in the 70s in the book Staying Alive by Jefferson Cowie. And they're like, oh, well, if a black family has the money to move here and go to my school, then I have no problem with that. But I don't want them being bussed in from the inner city. It's that kind of double dance where they can convince themselves that they're not being racist, even as they uphold a racist policy that appeals to them on a number of levels.
Yes, and that's the thing though, is I don't feel like he's doing the double dance. I feel like he's just sort of laying it out without like realizing like you've got to give these people something else. You've got to give them a fig leaf, and he's not giving a fig leaf in this. Like, take some time, come up with a fig leaf, dude.
Yeah. Suburban women love fig leaves.
Who doesn't love a fig leaf?
I'm always saying.
Brendan, which one of these mail-in ballots should we play? 3 or 4?
I think 4 is better.
Okay. Donald Trump is basically admitting that and this is what's holding up, I think, the bigger part of the coronavirus relief package. Donald Trump is admitting that they are basically trying to sink the post office to prevent mail-in ballots. And they really, really are assaulting the post office. Now, let's be clear. The collateral damage is life-threatening. There are millions of people who receive their medication through the mail. They have done this multiple times. They know what to expect with the mail. I'm down to 6 more pills, or I'm down to 12 pills, or whatever it is for my blood pressure, or whatever it is. Now I order it. It comes within a week. And what they're finding is that their pills are not coming within a week. They're not coming within 2 weeks. They're not coming within 3 weeks. It's conceivable we've already had people die because of the slowdowns, the purposeful slowdowns by the post office in this country. All with the agenda of A, privatizing the post office, and B, making the case that the post office is incapable of handling mail-in ballots. Here's Trump.
Do it for less, right? I think we could do it for less. But they want $25 billion for the post office because of this. And remember, the new man who's a great person, a great businessman, just got there a little while ago. The post office has been run poorly for many, many decades. Great people in the post office, incredible people, but they've had very bad leadership for many years, so we'll get it straightened out. But they turned down this bill because they want radical left agenda items that nobody in their right mind would approve. So they want $25 billion for the post office. They want $3.5 billion for universal mailing, $3.5 billion. And the bill's not going to happen because they don't even want to talk about it, because we can't give them the kind of ridiculous things that they want that have nothing to do with the China virus. It has nothing at all to do with China virus, much of what they're asking for. So therefore, they don't have the money to do the universal mail-in voting. So therefore, they can't do it, I guess, right? Are they going to do it even though they don't have the money? They're asking for the $3.5 billion. They're asking for $25 billion for the post office so they can do this, I guess, and other things. At 25, I would hope it would be a lot of other things too. But therefore, they don't have it. They don't have the money to do the universal mail-in votes. It'll be the greatest rigged election in history. It'll be the greatest fraud ever perpetrated, other than perhaps what they did to my campaign, where they spied on my campaign, President Obama, Biden, and everybody else. And they got caught. Let's see what happens. This will be one of the greatest frauds in history. So they're admitting that they want $3.5 billion, and they're not going to do a deal that's good for the American people. Therefore, they're not going to get.
This guy's like, just like, I mean, this is just like sheer insanity. But what he's trying to do is set up as this, is he's trying to say the premise, like they're asking $3.5 billion to do universal voting. Now, remember, Congress does not control how voting happens in this regard. They want money so that they want universal mail-in ballots to require that for the federal election. But these are executed by the states, and they want money to help the states do this and to help the post office do it. And his argument is like, well, if they don't get the money and then they do it, it's going to be rigged, because they say they need the money to do it. And if they really need the money to do it and we don't give it to them, how can they do it? And he keeps repeating that over and over again. They really are setting it up in such a way that they're trying to make it impossible to do. And then they're also setting up, the twofer for them is to set it up so that he can say on the day after the election, this election is invalid. I won, and it's not real. That's really what's going on here. It's pretty stunning. And I don't know how you deal with that.
Don't worry. I'm sure the Democrats will think of something really smart.
That whole statement there reminded me of this meme that goes around occasionally.
Why are you hitting yourself? Why are you invalidating your own election? I mean, it's kind of nuts that he's admitting to what they're doing. You'd think they would try to hide it a little bit better than that. But, if you love Trump, the ends justify the means. And those postal workers are a bunch of, lazy, working class, brown, whatever, And
it doesn't appear that the Democrats are weaponizing. Maybe they have a plan to roll something out in September, which may make more sense. But I haven't seen a cohesive sort of push by the Democrats or the campaign.
Well, Obama's tweeting today.
Oh, is he?
Yep. So
maybe that'll help.
It sounds like they're going to let it go to the courts, and then the conservative justices who hold the majority are going to decide based on who they want to be president, and then come up with an ass backwards legal justification after the fact, just like judges always do.
Here's a statement from Pelosi and Schumer that just came out.
Oh, God. House and Senate Democrats call on the president to immediately cease his assault on the Postal Service, make it clear that it'll allow the 2020 election to proceed without his sabotage tactics, and enable the American people the same opportunity he and the First Lady requested this week to vote by absentee ballot. I mean,
they called on him. He has to listen to that.
I mean, I think that's not a bad first step, frankly. I mean, you need to, you don't want to go around the manager, and report on somebody. You got to go through the process. That's a good first step, but that better be not the last step, right? Like, okay, you've called on them. You've said that he's trying to screw with the election. Now, what are you going to do? Like, you can't lay that premise out there and not follow up on it, right? You need to start doing stuff, because if you say you are screwing with the election, well, I don't know what else, honestly, like, would be more compelling for you to take action. And you've now, they've conceded that's the reality. It's now incumbent upon them to do stuff.
I mean, yeah, I was thinking about this the other day. I'm wondering if it would help for the postal workers to like take a hard stand on this and go on strike, or would Trump pull like Reagan did with the air traffic controllers and be like, "Fine, you're all fired. Amazon is the mail now."
I think it's the latter. I think it's the latter. I think if they go on strike, then they can shift the blame of the slowdown to the strike, as opposed to the opposite. This is one of those rare occasions where I don't think I just don't think that they have the proper leverage. I think this is a situation where the Democrats have to go in and start to say, like, you are making it impossible for us to have a legit election, right? I mean, I think like I'm not 100% sure where they have to go with this, but they have to go stronger than, and it may start with that statement. Maybe as people start to focus on it, but they should be bringing out Americans who are saying, like, I'm not getting my medicine. I can't run my business.
One would think.
Go to the IM's congressional baseball fan, noted kids philosopher and female anatomy expert Ben Shapiro recently was talking about Star Wars and how in his view, it is for little boys, which let's just say is interesting coming from him. Still, maybe he was onto something, because when you think about it, Star Wars is ultimately about the dangers of not venerating the housewife. What happens when you leave a Sith Lord alone with your wife? Bear at home too. Sam, any upcoming projects on Twitch? Hint, Stephen Bonnell. Don't let David dominate this platform too. What? I don't get it. Is Stephen Bonnell Destiny?
I have no idea.
Marcel Wallace. Yo, Matt, better not give the wrong lady a foot massage or you could develop a speech impediment.
I also don't follow that one.
Man,
can somebody explain that?
Are we just dense today, or are these jokes like going way over our heads?
Onward for Michael. The group collected almost 8,000 signatures in person during a pandemic because the council refused to allow online signature collection as authorized by voters 2 years ago. 2 weeks ago, the city attorney said he gave bad advice in the deadline. So now the group, Bedrooms Are for People, is suing to allow their initiative on the ballot. I don't quite get what this is. If you care about direct democracy and affordable housing, these anti-poor occupancy restrictions everywhere, please donate to Bedrooms Are for People at bedroomsareforpeople.com. People can check it out. That IM does not explain what it's talking about. CBD Wine Mom just announced Kamala Harris says she'll be bringing back the fireside chat, except for now it'll be called Tupac and Sesh. Dan Wally, I am Sam said. I don't get it. Sam, I am. Definitively not Ivan. Was that Pence speech an SNL skit? No kidding. I am Baba. MR Crew, question about supporting the post office. If we buy stamps from somewhere besides the post office, say like a grocery store, does that money still help the post office? It must. It must.
I don't think so. Also, Pence is more Mad TV.
That's true. We do not need no education. How can you cut your meat if you can't cut your pudding? I know what that is. Do you guys know what that is?
That's a little boomer humor there.
Pink Floyd, yes, exactly. New campaign slogan, Sweater Weather Underground, is just Peyton Manning shouting, "Cut that meat," over and over again. MG Monk Lewis, only mother can cut Pence's meat. Only mother can cut Pence's meat. So awkward the way that Pence tried to get every lame red meat insult in when talking about Harris. Great joke telling. Left in the South. Oh, wow. Mike Pence coming out against C and BT. Don't kink shame Mike. Dab one. It sounds
Wow.
kind of dirty. Simple socialist. Also, when Pence said, I got some red meat for you, 100% thought he was going to say my fucking dick.
That's such a lame thing to say to a political crowd, too. I got some red meat for you. That's like a beltway phrase.
Oh my God. That's so nuts. What do you think about the idea of the left advocating for amending the Apportionment Act to vastly expand the size of housing of the House of Representatives to fight Republican gerrymandering? I mean, I think there's a very strong argument to increase the number of members of the House. Very strong argument. We have the same number of representatives in the House as we had when our population was like a third of the size.
No.
I'm sure they'd find a way to gerrymander the new districts.
No, expand the House and get rid of the Senate. That's what I would say.
Down with that. In fact, one of the interviews that I did for Vacation was about, well, the concept of secession, but we ended up getting into like, let's get rid of the Senate too. Peyton Manning voice cut that meat. When people, I have no idea what that means. Canadian 3 hero. A general strike was trending #1 on Twitter yesterday at a time when the U.S. was in the middle of a health, housing, and economic crisis. The Congress and Senate are on vacation. I'd like to hear your thoughts on a general strike. Voting and civil disobedience are two of the greatest tools in the kit of a citizen of a democratic nation. More people in the streets seems like a good idea to me. I mean, I think there's definitely value in it, but you know, I think the problem is that you're not going to get. You know, I did first of all, we're not nearly organized enough to even get close to something like that. I mean,
yeah, it's going to need to do more than trend on Twitter.
I mean, that's, you know.
Well, doesn't mean we shouldn't start trying to organize now.
No, but I think really the more value it's going to have is when we have a Biden-Harris administration. Because the fact of the matter is, you know, as I said at the top of the show, all the data shows that wealthy people are doing fine. That the people who have been hit the hardest by the recession that we're going through, I think on some level, like they've already said, like, we don't care if you show up for work, right? Like, I mean, there is no work for you. And I think Donald Trump would love, I mean, I don't think it's working, but I think they feel like if we can get more protests going, maybe our strategy of saying that, you know, they're coming for you will work. And I think we should be organizing, and I think people should be organizing and ready for it. I just don't think that it's even remotely possible to get a general strike in this country in any, you know, near term. Secondly, like, I'm not sure that it would work particularly well right now.
Well,
it's hard to interfere with like the normalcy of like the whole point of a general strike, right? Is to, I mean, I guess like, you know, places like, you know, Amazon and UPS. I mean, frankly, those would be the most important places to strike at this point. Because that would actually shut down some operations in the country. But
yeah, I mean, it does freak me out that unemployment is so high and the demand for labor has been dropping worldwide, because the traditional fulcrum point of leverage that the working class has is their ability to withhold their labor. So, you know, there certainly are still lots of industries where they need workers and strikes would be effective, especially teaching and other things that are considered essential labor, which is a great category that this pandemic has given us. But, you know, at the same time, we need to be looking outside of the traditional workplace for ways that we can organize and get power. And that is, you know, it's going to be a lot harder, but we got to do it. And there are some presidents throughout history, like I'm doing a teach-in, actually, I should have plugged this, about the welfare rights movement and anti-work politics through my caucus, Emerge. And it's all about how mostly women, single moms, mostly Black and brown moms, organized for better as welfare recipients for better benefits in the 60s and 70s.
Awesome. When is that?
Not to take us off on too much of a
When is
tangent.
that?
It is August 23rd at 5 p.m. and I will put a link to it in the blog post.
Great. Could bring that up on Monday. Space Lennon, Sam, I saw some footage of a lunch you had with former gubernatorial candidate Cynthia Nixon, and I just want to say that my wife and I are very concerned about your bulimia. We hope you get the help you need. Enjoy LA, West Coast, Best Coast. That is a reference to an appearance on Sex and the City.
Oh, man.
Sam Sider. Did a memo go around Republicans that mispronouncing names is a strategy or something? Yeah, no kidding.
Yes, probably.
Rebuttal. Heard a caller yesterday talking about Bernie gaining a powerful chair if the Senate flips. Can you elaborate on what this could mean for the progressive agenda? I assume they're talking about the banking committee, right? Isn't he on the banking committee and he has seniority on that committee? Is that right? I didn't hear the conversation yesterday.
Yeah.
It's going to be the committee that oversees banking regulations. I mean, I think it's we got to get somebody on. Maybe we can talk about that if they gain the Senate. Bullprog. Trump will be in Mankato, Minnesota this morning. If anyone wants to go ask him how his hair would fare in a blizzard. I thought he was going to see his brother who's in hospital in New York. Maybe that changed.
Yeah, ask him about Lincoln's record in Minnesota.
Got a couple more clips here I want to get to. This is Kevin McCarthy. Apparently there's some unhappiness with Kevin McCarthy in the House. I think they're going to look if I don't think the Republicans are going to gain back the House. It's quite possible they're going to lose more seats. And we may see a more of a lunatic than even Kevin McCarthy in the leadership of the House. Here he is saying that, we shouldn't be wasteful when it comes to dealing with this enormous recession that we're experiencing.
And lastly, just in the last few seconds, if Nancy Pelosi goes from 3.4 to 2 trillion, shouldn't the Republicans move too? They were at 1 trillion.
Well, let's actually talk about that, because there's more than $1 trillion right now that has already been appropriated that hasn't been outlaid. Wouldn't you want to do the smart thing? Wouldn't you not want to waste money? If there's already $1 trillion sitting there, that's more than $100 billion for the states, why wouldn't you use that? Or more than $100 billion for small businesses? Is it because the trial lawyers do not want to see liability protection for the schools and the small businesses that you would make an excuse to hold it up one more time?
Oh.
Remember when we had to get liability protection for 3M just to sell us masks?
Yeah.
The Democrats said no the first time. She held that up even. Every single time there's been a common denominator in every bill we've done to protect us from COVID, and it's been Nancy Pelosi holding it up. Be it her refrigerator, be her flying in on a Sunday night, be her standing with the trial lawyers, and she's doing it one more time. Even though we have $1 trillion sitting there that we could take, that we've already appropriated, to meet her number even, she refuses and leaves Washington, but I'm still here.
Congressman.
Leaves Washington. The trial lawyers, what he's basically talking about. And what's sort of fascinating is that there hasn't been that many lawsuits, but basically what he's saying is that we don't want the American public to have any ability to have any redress if they are forced into a situation by their employers where they will be possibly harmed or in danger. We don't want a situation where citizens who go into a business where the business has been cutting corners, forcing their workers in, in an unsafe situation, where the consumers would have any redress in terms of these businesses. Essentially, what they want is they want the American businesses to be able to open up, subject people to all sorts of danger, and have absolutely no accountability for it. And I don't know. I don't think that message resonates with too many people. Like the trial lawyers, that's like so 15 years ago. Do you hear anybody complain about trial lawyers anymore?
Yeah, and most of that money is loans to the Federal Reserve, not
I mean,
to people.
Yeah, that's very narrowly tailoring your argument to people that are afraid about getting sued.
Where's the QAnon thing?
Oh,
where is that?
It
Do we have that clip?
is number 13.
Oh, I missed that. Oh, yeah, here it is. Oh, yeah. Okay, yeah. So, here's the thing. We already have at least one full-blown QAnon Republican who has won her primary in Georgia, who is going to go to Congress. I mean, there's a chance she could lose her general election, but highly unlikely. And that's what's her last name? Green, I think it is. I can't remember exactly.
Marjorie Taylor Greene.
All these
Please
QAnon supporters
respect
have
her
3
enough
names.
to get her name right.
Sorry about that. There's a new one, Jo Ray Perkins. I don't know which seat. Oh, she's the GOP's Senate nominee in Oregon. This is their Senate nominee. And she's been reading Marx. That must be encouraging, Jamie.
Mm-hmm.
But wait.
Horseshoe theory.
But wait for it.
They need to start breaking the bond that we have with each other. And they can do that by making us wear a mask, by telling us to stay at least 6 feet away from another human being, because we don't want to get too close because they could be bad for us. See, this is all about desocialization. Love and hate are not tangible. So if we continue to social distance, desocialize, mask shame people, we lose our caring for our fellow human being and we'll become zombies. That's what'll happen. And it's very insidious. They're not going to be open and obvious what they're going to do. They're not going to come out and tell people this. And I know that there's people that are going to call me crazy. They're going to call me a conspiracy theorist. This is my point of view. This is what I'm seeing happening. And I'm saying these based on what I have read on some of the Marxist theories.
Now, Jamie, would you please explain to us the Marxist theory that if we can get everybody to wear masks during a pandemic, that we will zombify everybody and you will be desocialized?
Yeah, I mean, I'm always complaining that nobody reads theory anymore. So it's actually really nice to see some critical engagement, even from somebody who I share very little in common with as, our ideology goes. But I believe it's in the 18th Brumaire that Marx said communism is all about dissolving social bonds, which capitalism has, of course, created, and Marxism seeks to, get rid of because that shit's bad. I think it was also maybe in the manifesto where he said communism is when you wear a mask during a pandemic, and the more masks you wear, the communister it is.
I'm just so fascinated by it is almost like the way that these QAnon people assemble their theories. It's literally like putting a 5-year-old or 4-year-old in the seat at a grocery, with a grocery cart, and they sit on the front cart and just sort of pushing them down the aisle, and they just keep grabbing anything from the shelf and putting it in the basket and saying, that's dinner. And it's just a sort of wait, what? Marshmallows and chicken and wait, what? And mayonnaise? What? That's not, but no, that's dinner. And there's no, I mean, it's not like they're handing out the masks, right? That would be a little bit more. Why wouldn't they hand out but a lot of people making a lot of money on PPE is my point.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
To the desocialization.
These
But
are
that
all
is
very
your
good
senatorial candidate for the Republicans. That's wow.
You want to talk about cultural Marxism? Just to have a reading of Marx that's entirely mapped onto whatever weird cultural point you're trying to make. That's the real cultural Marxism, folks.
I honestly feel like the Democrats really should be in a better position to highlight some of these nominees. Like, I mean, if I was Chuck Schumer, I would say, I got to be honest with you, I'm really worried about the Oregon race, because they've got a very strong candidate there. Like, about as Republican as they can get. Like, I mean, they really should be platforming these people.
Yeah, it's possible they're still in a bit of denial over it. I don't know.
I think it's just really impressive. This is let's look at this too. This is Fox and Friends are very angry because I'm not quite sure why they're angry here. Apparently in New York, they're not going to be doing this year the 2 beams of light. And I don't believe they've done it every year. Maybe they have, where the World Trade Center was. I mean, there's been a couple of years I don't remember seeing it, but maybe that was just I didn't pay attention on that day. But they're very angry about COVID denying that happening. I'm not clear why, but let's listen in to Fox and Friends.
Well, what is it for? The sacrifice people made on that day and the sacrifice that happened after as we hunted down the people that killed all those people on 9/11, Al-Qaeda and everything else. So all you're asking people to do, and I'm sure you'd get volunteers lined up through the Lincoln Tunnel to put on an N95 mask. We could supply them if you want, and do what they're doing every day in the scaffolding around our building, and they're building things at LaGuardia Airport, and nobody's worried about their welfare. But to point lights into the sky, you'd have volunteers from coast to coast to show that.
Brian?
That is just a kick in the teeth and another unnecessary upset of normalcy in America.
And Brian, remember, never forget. I guess this is a way we won't
Except
be
for this year.
remembering them.
Well, what they're suggesting instead is that for all buildings in New York City to light up the facades with light blue light. To remember what happened.
There's nobody in our buildings. Everyone's left.
Well, so they're on the outside, so it's going to be easy. So just shine the big light. So that's what they're planning. The question is, what will they do next year on the 20th anniversary?
All right.
I mean, the entire city putting blue lights up on their buildings. Why is that somehow doesn't suffice for Brian Kilmeade?
Well, everyone knows the Democrats did 9/11, so it's in their best interest for people to forget.
It is so. They just cannot figure out how they can deal with this. Like all the politics are like from 15 years ago.
I hope nobody tells Brian Kilmeade how many 9/11's COVID has, counted in terms of deaths in America.
Right. We're at 170,000 people.
Yeah, it's
and it's quite possible
9/11s
that we might not want to contribute to that. I mean, I imagine that's what the question is like, can we safely do this? And then the people who have organized it have said they can't. Just because you're going to get volunteers to come in, well, that's great from across the country. But you know what? From 35 states, they're not allowed to come into New York without quarantining because if there's a huge pandemic. And to send them back and then to bring in, people from all these states. I mean, there's just they don't contemplate anything about this. And, there's been thousands of people in New York who sacrificed a lot working as healthcare workers, many of whom died, first responders, many of whom died to deal with this pandemic. So how about taking that seriously when they're already talking about an alternative? I mean, it's just so bizarre. And I don't know that never forget. I think that was not necessarily about 9/11. But all right, lastly, well, I'm going to do a couple IMs, then we're going to get out of here. Oh, I didn't realize what time it is. All right, 3 more IMs. Jazz cigarette butt, looking like a snack as usual, Sam. Yum. Thank you.
They're thirsty today.
Carl Van der Geest. Somebody said you look like an owl. Is that like a thing? I don't know. Really cool. Netroots is happening now, and I noticed you're not there. I to be honest with you, I would have gone if it was a place to go to, but online it just doesn't work for me.
It's
Andrew
not
from
the
DC.
same.
Have you all started an office pool for when the next caravan from Latin America comes up? Put me down $20 on September 2nd. And the final IM of the day. Oh, God. I watched Eric Weinstein in a PBS Space Time discussion. He was whining at the panel featuring Lee Smolin and Sabine Hussenfelder that his novel mathematical theory of everything does not get traction in physics circles. He's not a physicist. Despite having
it's PC
500,000 views on YouTube, Sabine told him that no one understands his bullshit in kinder words than mine, and then attempted to explain to her using a used TP roll and a toothpick. After solving all the other problems using IDW method, he will now tackle the nature of everything. Maybe we should get a clip of that for next week. Jamie, Matt, Brendan, good week. Thanks, guys. Stay safe. Everybody, see you on Monday.
It might take all the strength I got to get to where I want, but I know somehow I'm gonna get there. I wasn't looking when I just got caught between the truth and the light bar, but finding out won't make me feel any better. Yeah.